What's going on, everybody? It's the Wise Guys here with Brandon Capizzello, John Tortorelli, and Justin Ray. We are here to recap Week 1 of the NFL season. From Thursday to Sunday. Now we're starting today, or I should say tonight. This Week 1 has been an insanely crazy one. I mean, personally for me, I'm having a bad week. It's been hectic. It's been a bad week for Brandon and his teams and his guys. All around. I've had one silver lining. That's my boy Brady coming out on top. We'll cover that though later on. But somebody brighten my mood up. How are you guys doing? I know John's probably feeling well, seeing his jersey.
Well, the jersey is a good thing because Minka Fitzpatrick currently is on a one-way stop to Defensive Player of the Year. But for the Steelers, while they may have won against the Bengals in Week 1, it already feels like in some ways their season is in jeopardy. No, they're not a contender, sure. They're not going to be a high-level team in the championship round per se, but TJ Watt likely going to have a torn pectoral muscle. He's going to we'll talk about it in a little bit.
We're gonna talk about Justin. How was your weekend? Last time we saw you.
Much like you, just like a Patriot fan, I'm not happy with my squad. But as a New Yorker, I love seeing the Jets lose. But I'm so proud that the Giants actually stole one from the Titans. Listen, man, the Giants do everything wrong in Week 1. Finally, something went their way. Saquon is balling. It's the Brian Dable era, man.
I'll give you the kudos on that one. You did call that one. You did say the Giants are going to get the upset. Me and John were. I mean, here's the shocker. Me and John predicted the NFC East to all be defeated, basically, right? All start off 0-1, and were we wrong? Because actually, the AFC South was the division that didn't have one win.
And two of the teams played one another, Brandon. That's the
two
craziest part about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Well, let's kick it off from the first game of the week: the Rams versus the Bills in LA. Boy, howdy. John had something to say. So, John, why don't you kick us off? You were feeling sentiments that I said are, of course, some people are doing that, but I think it's a little hyperbole. But let me know how you feel.
So, for those of you that may not have been here for episode number 24, Braden had a few comments. One of which, Justin, I'm sure you'll remember, is the Rams are an overrated team with a defense that he doesn't fully believe in. Do you believe? Is that
the Bills?
Did I say the Rams?
Yeah, the Bills. Yeah.
The Bills are a team that you feel is quite overrated, and that the Rams
overrated and overhyped were the words I use. Yes.
Yeah. The Rams with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, Gain Allen Robinson as that X receiver, are the better team. They have the quarterback you have more faith in. They have a top 3 to 5 head coach and a defense with star-level talent at every single level. Aaron Donald at D-tackle, Bobby Wagner, if you think we'll talk about that in a moment, at linebacker, Jalen Ramsey at corner, and I want to attack the direct concern with this Rams team, which is their offensive line. The Bills had 2 blitzes. No, was it 2 blitzes or 0 blitzes? They didn't blitz the entire game, and they had 7 sacks, over 10 quarterback hits, and Matthew Stafford did not have his best showing by any stretch of the imagination. Now, keep in mind the Bills lost. They didn't have Trey White come into this game, but they also lost Ed Oliver after playing just 17 snaps to an ankle injury. And in spite of that, Von Miller had himself an absolute day with Jordan Phillips, AJ Epinesa, and that Bills defense, starting a 6-round corner, playing mostly zone coverage, had themselves a terrific showing in Week 1 on the road against the defending champions. And most of all, Brandon, the quarterback that you feel is overhyped, and Josh Allen, put on an absolute show. You're one that feels he can take over the game physically with his size, his rushing ability, and his arm strength. But we saw mentally him making consistently precise, accurate throws, reading the field. He was creating some ridiculous plays out of structure. That one touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs where he underthrew him was an incredibly tough play where he escapes and evades pressure in the pocket and throws the ball 35, 40 yards downfield for a touchdown. And he had some ridiculous runs in that game, one of which were a former Penn State cornerback he just slammed to the ground, another where he plowed through Bobby Wagner for a touchdown. Josh Allen absolutely outplayed Matthew Stafford, and outside of one interception was a little bit behind his receiver. He played an almost flawless football game. And I'm going to come back to you, Brandon. Justin, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about this as well. This Rams offensive line reminded me like Detroit. It was just Matthew Stafford consistently getting hit. And outside of Cooper Kupp, the Rams had nothing offensively. There was no push in the running game. And Allen Robinson, while he was getting open, Stafford didn't have the time to read the entire field and get him the football. So if this Rams offensive line what makes this team a pretender and one that got exposed in week 1 against a injury-riddled Bills defense?
Are you asking me if they got exposed, or are you saying they got exposed?
I think they got exposed. The offensive line interior-wise is very sketchy, and I want to ask you.
Oh, you're talking just the offensive line, not the team in totality.
Well, we saw in week 1 that offensive line plagued the entire team almost. On the offensive end, at least. We'll talk about the defense.
Yeah, no, listen, I can't sit up here and argue that the Rams showed up or whatever. They were not ready. I believe it was half of their starters didn't play the preseason, so I should have expected a little rust from the start, and it just kind of, you saw it throughout the entire game. Like the O line, there was one play, and this is really where it started, the downhill of the O line just started to get eaten to shreds. It was early in the game. Von Miller tries to get past Noteboom, I believe the left tackle's name is, but Noteboom really holds his own and stops him. But then on the very next play, Von Miller hits him with a complete bull rush, catches him off guard, and gets Matthew Stafford down for his first sack of the day of 2. And from there, it just kind of went downhill for the Rams. I mean, one thing I do have to say is Cooper Kupp is still unguardable, and he's for me still the best receiver in football. I mean, him and Matthew Stafford just have a link that is up there with the best of them. Allen Robinson was an absolute no-show. They should put out what's that thing called? APB for MIA. This guy is like, put him on the milk cartons in the stores. Where was he? He had 2 targets the entire game, and 1 target was on the final play of the game. The defense, Jalen Ramsey got exposed. I mean, I've had question marks about him. What?
The way they're utilizing him in zone coverage exposed the Rams defense, not Jalen Ramsey. He's a press man-to-man corner. That's where he's best. And because of the personnel around him, they have to go zone.
Let's not make excuses for the biggest big mouth at DB. He got exposed that day.
But look at that secondary. He's the one that's holding it all together in the back.
Okay.
End.
Well, then he's not doing a great job, because the Bills throwing at Jalen Ramsey, 7 targets, 6 catches, 124 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and a 158.3 passer rating. They absolutely torched him.
You and I could both agree, though, Josh Allen was making a lot of throws where he was not only leading his receiver, but throwing him open. And some of those throws, I don't know if any quarterback outside of Rodgers could make.
John, time
the precision.
There was the one throw that's coming right to my mind where I believe it was a hitch route or a curl route or something. It was Stephon Diggs on Jalen Ramsey, and Diggs just completely broke him. That's one-on-one man coverage. You're right there. Like, and you got worked on that play. And listen, yeah, he might have thought he had help on that deep touchdown pass, is what you're referring to. But again, you still, it's on you there. I mean, you got to have a high IQ, right? I mean, you see Stephon Diggs, he's going. I don't know, man. Listen, I've had my question marks about Jalen Ramsey. I understand the zone defense that you're talking about, John, and how it can expose them and stuff like that. It's just, listen, man, you didn't have these excuses last year, and I've always looked at Jalen Ramsey and I've just said, like, I don't know. Is it the way football is played nowadays that harbors the defensive players, and that's why he's not as good as he should be? Because he's looked at as the best cornerback in football. Now, when Gilmore was on top and won Defensive Player of the Year, he was the best cornerback in football to me. For me, Jalen, it's just I've got question marks about him. I've had question marks about him, and he needs to step up his performance, because if you're going to talk all that talk, you got to back it up, and he hasn't.
He has. Outside of the Super Bowl where he got I think it was an offensive pass interference in that
No,
big time Jamar
John,
Chase play where he gave
John,
up that big time
John.
touchdown.
Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, one-on-one, deep down the field. Mike Evans not a burner.
Exactly. That's the point. It's Tom Brady to Mike Evans. Mike Evans is 6'5" and unguardable upstairs. You need Tom Brady locating balls to him. He doesn't need a Bernie. That's not what his game is.
Are we gonna put Mike Evans on the same field as like a Randy Moss or Terrell Owens and stuff? Because Revis was doing that and he was the best cornerback. If you're the best cornerback, you got to lock up the best receivers.
I'm not putting Jalen Ramsey on the same field as a Darrell Revis. I'm saying he's a top 5 to top 7 corner, but Revis is the best corner I've seen.
He's an elite corner, and I'll give him that. But I find people, and this happens often, making excuses for him. They always rely on safety help. Oh, the safety's supposed to be there. This is supposed to happen. Well, it didn't. It didn't happen. That's where you're supposed to be pressed up. You're the best corner in the game. You're going against one of the best receivers in the game. We expect you to go man-to-man, toe-to-toe with the guy. Stop blaming the safety. You're supposed to be there, bro. Just take the blame. Just eat it. And you know what? What makes me happy is, oh man, like people play with an edge. People play cocky, and I'm all for that. But sometimes when they take it over and they just say that they just think they're the best, it drives me nuts. So I'm kind of happy that he ate his words. This is a quote from GQ a couple of years ago about Josh Allen. He says, I think Allen is trash. I don't care what nobody say. He's trash. And it's going to show too. That's a stupid draft pick to me. We played them this year and I'm excited as hell.
Oof.
Yeah.
That came back.
If I'm not mistaken, he said a lot of things about a lot of play. I think he went at basically every quarterback.
Oh, yeah, he did.
There. And I'm pretty sure he actually got torched more often than not that season that went up.
And I'll give him his respect, because at the end of the game, I know they asked him about that, and he gave Josh Allen his respect. But, you know, you just really ate your words there. And first game of the season in front of millions of fans watching, you got what you wanted, man. Josh Allen showed up, the MVP.
One thing I did want to say, last thing on Jalen Ramsey, is like, if you're the best cornerback, or, you know, looked at as the best cornerback in football, right? You've been in the league. How long has he been in the league for? What year is he in? Like 8,
Year
7?
6. Giants in 2016.
So he's been in the league for a while. He's been in the league for a while, right? You should have a little cachet to say to the defensive coordinator, say, listen, man, what I do best is man-to-man coverage. They've done that for different cornerbacks throughout the league in years previous. I know I've heard that before and seen that before, where one cornerback is going to do his thing, and then you could do whatever you want. This guy, Jalen's like, I got this guy. And we're going to get to the Green Bay game where Jair Alexander said, hey, I want this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. I would imagine Jalen Ramsey wants Stephon Diggs one-on-one man-to-man coverage. Give him what he wants. He should be the best corner. You're paying him all that money. You traded all those draft picks for him. Those are the moments to shine.
But I feel like that decision is personnel based, and maybe the biggest takeaway, they're talking about this in the broadcast in the game, was Von Miller switching sides. You felt him coming off the edge against Noteboom. In the first quarter especially, the tone was set very early in the first drive, and that changed the entire game for the Rams. Whereas for Los Angeles defensively, they weren't getting that necessary pressure without Von Miller. So I think for Ramsey, when you're not getting that support on the interior for front seven, it's a lot harder to go man-to-man naturally.
And another thing I want to say on the Rams, right? The running game was non-existent. Cam Akers had 3 carries for 0 yards. Henderson was 13 for 47. I mean, they were really predictable for like the first 2 quarters or whatever. It would be their first down play was going to be a run play. Every single time they ran the ball, first down. It reminded me of the Cowboys. Like, you become predictable. You got to change it up or teams are going to catch on to that. Hit a play action or something. I need to see more out of Allen Robinson. I really do. Like, you can't. There was
it's
talk
the offensive line.
Okay, it is the offensive, but John, Cooper Kupp didn't have a problem.
Because he's the guy that shreds zone coverage. It's a completely different thing. That's Stafford's guy. It's his first read every single time. Allen Robinson's on the other side as the X.
That's a little bit more on Sean McVay, where he's got to make Allen Robinson the first read on plays, because you got to feed the one thing I've heard about receivers. You get them the ball early, they start feeling good about themselves. They just need to touch the ball. So get them a couple plays early on. Cooper Kupp's confidence is not going to be knocked if he doesn't get the ball until the second quarter because you know he's going to be there. Get Allen Robinson involved a little more is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You need him. You need him. If you don't, then
it is tough though because Stafford already has that connection with Cooper Kupp. Whereas if Allen, it's his first game playing together, and you want the ball in Kupp's hands, you don't want an A-Rob's. A-Rob's game's not predicated on volume the way it is the Cooper Kupp, where he can take over and shred up a man like I just said. With A-Rob, it's those big plays off of those secondary actions where Stafford's looking there.
All right, how about a red zone target, or like in the 5-yard line, throw up a goal line fade.
It is tough, though, because the offensive line was really giving them no push in the running game as well. So they were predictable, and you were right. I mean, you almost wouldn't know that Sean McVay was coaching this game, but I think all those issues stem from personnel in the trenches. I think that's what's ultimately going to come down to this year with the Rams. And I've said this to you guys, the Rams are not top five. I can't speak. The Rams are not a top 5 team in football, and it starts with there in the offensive line. We'll talk about the Buccaneers and all those other teams. They had the tackle depth. The Rams lose Andrew Whitworth, one of the best left tackles in the game, and Austin Corbett, one of the better guards as well. And you're not replacing those guys with high-end draft picks because in the draft, this team's screwing around and taking Tutu Atwell in the second round. And you look at the receiver depth, I mean, who was the guy starting for them? The guy in the
that's because
that's the issue with this entire team. Yeah, one of those guys, the receiver goes down, and just in any spot, the entire team's going to crumble.
I get it. I don't know if Justin shares my sentiments with what I'm about to say, but because I haven't heard his thoughts on this, but I know where John's leading. And it's just, I've heard this all week, all Sunday. I saw it on my timeline of not people tweeting at me, but, just reactions of week 1. My brother was texting me all day, Thursday and Sunday, and I'm just like, dude, it's week 1. How many more seasons? We got 17 more weeks of this. We saw Green Bay last year get blown the hell out week 1, and Rodgers became the MVP back-to-back. They made it to the playoffs. Like we've seen one of the perfect examples. Tom Brady and the Patriots get blown out week 1 against Kansas City. The newspaper headlines the next day is the dynasty over? And I believe we went to the Super Bowl that year, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. But it's week 1. Enough with the overreactions. The Rams will be fine. They're still going to win the division. They're still going to be a top 3 team in the NFC. They will be fine. Trust me. You're probably going to hear me say this a lot this episode if John keeps acting the way he does. RELAX.
I have to agree with Brandon there because I feel like the first 5 weeks of the NFL season, we're just seeing all the pretenders. They show themselves. They all look good for a little bit. I mean, I could say with complete confidence, I don't know if you guys can agree with me, I haven't learned anything about any of these teams after week 1. There's nothing to know yet. San Francisco found a way to lose. Me and John had them as a top 5 team. We believe they'll turn it around. We still aren't high on the Bears just because they came out with a win. The Patriots lost. Brandon still feels confident about the Patriots, I'm sure. I don't, but we haven't learned a lot from week 1. It's just week 1. This is the biggest toss-up in football. A lot of things are going to twist and turn. Next week, it might be a completely different show. We might see a totally different Jets team, a totally different Giants team, a different Steelers team, a different Bengals. Maybe Joe Burrow doesn't throw 4 picks and he looks like his MVP self, So it is week 1. So I'm not going to sit here and overreact and say the Rams are in the top 5 team. While, yes, they do have some holes on the offensive line, but we knew that going into it. We didn't think they were going to look that bad, but it happens. You're going against a future Hall of Famer, Von Miller, on the other side. You're going to get exposed when you have a young guy at tackle.
They got 15 QB hits and 7 sacks on Stafford.
It wasn't just Von Miller. Jordan Phillips looked like a friggin' all-pro. And here's my thing. Are the Rams getting too much of a benefit of the doubt? Because like you said, Justin, we saw some of these issues coming in. Their offseason was overrated because of the name value of Bobby Wagner brains, but they got worse this offseason. And last year, they had amazing injury luck. Brandon, you will always say I'm not taking injuries to account, but that's always a factor later in the season. So while you can say the Rams are going to figure things out, I don't see how, because where are the X factors that are coming and break away outside of Allen Robinson giving them a resurgence? I just don't see on either end of the ball.
John, that's all they need is Allen Robinson to show up. That's it.
Where's the running game?
Who was it? But did they have a run game last year? Really? Not really. It was below average.
How about the pass protection? I mean, all of that, man.
Yes, that
it was terrible.
I started the show off with that. I can't make excuses for that. They need to play better, and I think they can. They're gonna have 10 days to regroup and refocus and be ready for this upcoming Sunday. And they got the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're in LA. I got them penciled in as a W there. I don't care what Atlanta did with New Orleans this week. Again, it's week 1. Whatever. I expect LA to get a big win there. I just want to say this last thing on not even the Rams Bills game, but just for everybody to just take this, okay? Chad Ochocinco tweeted, "Week 1 is merely the 4th preseason game where the starters finally get a chance to play. As a fan, I wouldn't put too much into the results this week." I retweeted it and just said this. Please take that and it's just week 1. Relax. Okay. Let's get into game 2.
Actually, one more thing before we move forward.
Stafford related? Because Brandon's want to talk about Stafford.
It was Stafford related. So I don't know if you guys saw the Twitter exchange between Richard Sherman and Dan Orlovsky. But they spoke about Matt Stafford. So Dan Orlovsky had tweeted about the interception that Stafford threw targeting Tyler Higbee. And I'll read you the tweet. He said, "Looks like Stafford is expecting Higbee to see/read. Read it as a squat corner/hard corner and hook it up in the inside. Higbee reads it as a soft corner and runs it out. The guy throws a pick." Sherman's comment back, Stafford being Stafford. I want to hear what Brandon has to say.
100% agree with Dan Orlovsky because I saw the same exact thing. I thought it was a miscommunication between him and Higbee. I mean, obviously, if you really think Matthew Stafford is that stupid just to throw the ball to the freaking defender, then you're an idiot. Let's be honest here. He thought Higbee was going to run more of like I don't even know what it was going to be, like a 5-yard out route or something, and he ran like a flat instead, and it's miscommunication. Richard Sherman's, you know what he said about Stafford being Stafford, Sherman gonna Sherman. That's what Sherman does. He's kind of similar to a Jalen Ramsey, but at least he was a really elite player.
All right, on to the next one.
Stafford did have 3 interceptions, and with this severe tendonitis in his elbow, there is a case that only gets worse as the season goes on if he's getting sacked 5 to 7 times a game. And I know that Brandon didn't want to talk about any of that because we're focusing on the rest of the team.
He's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I got to say.
He's fine, right?
He's fine. Don't worry. All right.
He won't address any of the elbow tendonitis issues. You know what? None of it, right?
This is your week, John.
We're just going to deny.
I'm not denying nothing. I'm not denying.
You won't even acknowledge the elbow tendonitis. Justin, you know how that is as a baseball player.
He's fine, John. He got elbow surgery in the offseason. He's been working with Bryce Harper because it's more of a baseball injury and not a football injury. He's working through it. Dan Orlovsky is a close friend of Matthew Stafford. He has said and quoted Matthew Stafford, "It's fine." That's why I'm saying it's fine. I'm not worried about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's one of the toughest players in the NFL. I've said that before. He's fine. All right? You're going to have this is your week, John. I'm going to let you have it because it's your week. My team and my guys lost.
I had a really bad
week. My guys lost. All right, but I had a worse freaking week, all right?
I was 6 of 9 in my picks. It was a rough week.
I don't care. The people I have emotional investment in lost, all right? All of them except for one. Let's get into that one. So we got Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay versus the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, boy. How about them Cowboys, huh? Dak Prescott, on 2 back-to-back plays, I believe, banged his hand against a defender. And I guess the second one or the first one, I don't really know, dislocated his thumb, I believe. He had successful surgery today. He's expected 8 to 9 weeks. I think either the Detroit game before the bye or the Packers game after the bye is when he's expected to be back. So I'm going to throw it to Justin. Justin, 2-parter. is Dallas's season over? And 2, how did you feel about Tampa Bay's performance?
Season's over. Sorry, Cowboy fans. Season is done. It's hysterical to me. It is done. And I mean, I'm sorry about Dak Prescott, but really, you guys weren't doing much with Dak Prescott right now. And you managed 3 points with Dak this past on Sunday night. They struggled to score. And you expect me to think Cooper Rush is going to lead this offense, an offense that really doesn't have that much explosiveness, even though on the bright side, Zeke did look like he was running a lot stronger. So that I'm very happy to see that. But on your weapons on the outside of your 2 running backs, CeeDee Lamb, I'm starting to question, is he worthy of the number 88? Can he live up to the guys that wore it before him? I don't know.
After just one game?
I'm just saying, it's maybe I am overreacting, but then again, it's overreaction Monday. So this is what we're supposed to do. Is he worthy of number 88? Is he going to be that guy, that number 1? I saw what Justin Jefferson just did to the Packers being the number 1. I saw what Jamar Chase just did to the Steelers, even though in a losing effort as a number 1. Is he going to take the reins? Grab the bull by the horns, be a true number 1. If the Cowboys don't have that, if Cooper Rush, who's going to be the quarterback now, if he can't lead this team and actually trust CeeDee Lamb to be the guy he's going to rely on, I have a lot of questions about this Cowboys team, not just this year, but even in the future. So I think the Cowboys season is done. Their best chance was because of their quarterback. And while they do have a strong defense, Micah Parsons looked excellent. Oh my gosh, he's a manimal back there, man. He's an absolute stud. And there's some building blocks there, but this isn't the year that's a tough loss to lose your franchise guy first week of the season. You need to make your mark. We spoke about Arizona losing D-Hop. If you're losing that guy so early in the season, you lose so much firepower in that offense. If you struggle out the gate in those first 6 weeks, your season's over playing in that division. And now their only saving grace is if the Giants suck, if the Eagles find a way to stumble out the gate. And I mean, the Commanders Carson Wentz was on his bully yesterday. So we'll see. So it's really, they'll be praying for the NFC East to continue to be the NFC least. That's the only chance. I know that was a long answer. What was the second question?
The second one was, how did you feel about Tampa Bay's performance?
So one thing, I don't know about you guys, but I'm super stoked. And I said this the last time we spoke about Tom Brady and Julio Jones, that connection. Tom Brady took a couple of deep shots to him. I know they connected on one beautiful ball by Brady, even better catch by Julio. And then he threw one. There was a play action through to the left sideline. Although it was dropped, but man, almost an insane grab by Julio there. They're going to be out with Godwin's going to be out for a while, but I still have complete and utter faith. It's Tom Brady under center. He'll rally the troops together. That offense struggling to score points, that won't happen for long. I wouldn't be surprised if next week they're dropping 30.
Got a question. So Dak is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. With Prescott out, the Cowboys will win how many games?
Do you have the schedule in front of you?
So they're going to Cincinnati.
They got a tough one.
They're going to be at home, though, this upcoming week. Following that, they have the Giants and the Commanders, the Rams, Eagles, Lions, Bears, and Packers November 13th. Week 7.
They can beat the Commanders or Giants. Those are toss-up games. They're probably going to lose every other game if Cooper Rush is the starting quarterback.
Now, the Cowboys the Packers-Cowboys game is week 9. So that would be a worst-case scenario, the game that Dak returns.
Yeah. Like I said, there are 2 division games they play. Giants, Commanders can be toss-ups, but the other games I expect all L's because I just don't think Cooper Rush is the guy to do it.
And his one start last year against the Vikings, they did win, and he threw a pair of touchdown passes for over 300 yards.
The Cowboys always beat Kirk Cousins. So
the Vikings secondary last year was burnt toast, akin to the Rams this last week. So that's important to note. For the Buccaneers, they definitely not their best performance offensively. Can Julio Jones keep this up? Because he's shown the capability, and we saw that last night. But with him, it's all about durability and snap count. And with Chris Godwin now out, you can say to yourself, well, if he has to step into a number 2 receiver role, along with Russell Gage coming back from injury, there's a case they may have to, use him more than his body can allow. I know he's been on that TB12 diet with Alex Guerrera, right? That's his name. But I mean, the dude the last 2 seasons, or last 3 seasons, just hasn't been right.
So to piggyback on both of you, Julio looks pretty damn good. I see absolutely zero decline in Tom Brady, and anybody who says they do, I really don't know what you're watching. I mean, the zip is still there, the arm is still there, the experience is still there. He had one blunder, the defender made a great play. That's going to be his career achievement and game ball that he's going to keep forever, is that he intercepted Tom Brady. Kudos to you, but he even mouthed to Mike Evans right after the play. He said, "My fault," because he knew he messed up. He didn't see the defender coming out. Listen, positives though. Leonard Fournette was running like that fourth overall pick. He should be 21 carries for 127 yards. That's 6 yards a carry. I mean, he was booming, and then he had that one incredible block on Micah Parsons where he absolutely sat Parsons on his ass. That was beautiful. Julio, they even gave the ball twice to. They're using him a little like Debo, I guess. Mike Evans looked solid. Chris Godwin, hope a speedy recovery. It was a tough catch that he had to make where I guess he hyperextended his hamstring. He's going to be out a couple weeks, like Justin said. But yeah, I expect it really to be Mike Evans is going to be the guy, and then everybody else is going to be committed. Julio is going to obviously probably be on a snap count limited because they don't want to overwork him. And he's probably going to get a lot more later in the season, especially in the playoffs, because he's a trustworthy target. Russell Gage probably going to fill in. Scotty Miller's still there. He's a speedster. Perriman. Brady didn't really get targets, which is crazy. Brady didn't even really use his tight ends. 3 targets, 1 catch for Brady. The O-line held up pretty well. He only got sacked twice. Michael Parsons had himself a day though. That kid is special. I mean, he's arguably I don't know if it's hyperbole, but he's arguably the best defensive player in the league. I mean, I always prefer, and this is one thing that I have against Aaron Donald, and it's not really a him thing, it's more of his position. I prefer edge rushers because I think they can impact the game more than an interior lineman. So Micah Parsons, I mean, there's a lot of hyperbole, I guess you'd call it. A lot of people are saying this guy is the best they've seen since, I know it's Lawrence Taylor. I mean, they're saying it. But he looks special, man. They do. The Tampa Bay does play the Saints next week. I think it's in New Orleans, so that's going to be a tough matchup. The Saints didn't look very good. John's going to probably have something to say about that. But yeah, I mean, listen, Tom's used to this. He's done this a bunch of times in New England. When the secondary is playing really good and the defensive front seven's not playing well and the running backs are running all over him, he's perfectly fine with his ego setting aside and just turning around, handing the ball off, and winning a 19-3 game. So I have no worries with Tampa Bay. They're still my Super Bowl prediction. They're still my Super Bowl winners. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Dallas fans though. Prayers up to Dak. I hope he has a speedy recovery.
The Buccaneers or the Cowboys weren't the only ones being hit with injury, because the Bucks left tackle and Donovan Smith hyperextended his elbow in the second quarter. That tackle combination of Tristan Wirfs at right tackle and him at left is one of the best in the league. And so when you lose Kappa and all those other veterans interior wise, it's really just Shaq Mason at right guard and Wirfs. So hopefully, apparently
they did say about Donovan that it's a hyperextension, like you said, and it's really more about pain tolerance, how much he can play through. But so he can play through it. So I guess it's really up to him, and if he can, muscle through the pain.
Which is just ridiculous. I mean, the amount of painkillers they're at, like, I can't imagine playing left tackle in the NFL, 300 plus pounds, going up against the speed of those edge rushers. But
I do gotta say, dude, Antoine Winfield Jr. he's a dog in this league. I mean, he's a chip off the old block.
Is he the most underrated safety in the game? Because we talk all the time about, Jesse Bates and my guy Minka, and there's a couple of others too. Justin
Jamal
Simmons, who's
Adams.
playing right now, Jamal Adams, who went down, left the Seahawks game before. Antoine Winfield is one that doesn't get put in that conversation when you think of the elite safeties,
He's
but
very young. I think that's why. It's probably because he's really young. But yeah, I mean, I don't underrate him. I was hoping the Patriots would have drafted him in that draft, but yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. If some people are saying there's concerns in Tampa, I still don't see the concerns in Tampa Bay. I don't. I don't.
Now with Godwin going down, this one name keeps popping into my mind, and I always felt like Tom Brady and this guy would be teammates at some point. But when OBJ is healthy, I could see him finding his way to Tampa Bay. All issues will be resolved. At some point, there's even reports, I don't know how true it may be, but maybe Gronk comes back in midseason.
I don't see Gronk. I don't see OBJ. I think OBJ is going to be a Ram again.
there's a good chance Julio doesn't stay healthy, and so the need is there for OBJ. Julio is phenomenal given the opportunity. He looked great, but I have a really tough time seeing him staying healthy for a 17-game season and then a playoff run as well. Because given his age and where he's been the last couple of years, it is asking a good amount to have a lot of snaps from him.
I think he's going to the Rams. I think they even had a meeting after the game about him coming back to the Rams. I think he likes LA. I think he likes playing with Stafford. I think he really likes Cooper Kupp. Yeah. And also he's not gonna be ready till like late October, November time. So I mean, we just got to see. I mean, Godwin is going to be healthy by then, but we'll see how the season plays out. You know what? I'm with you guys. I wouldn't be surprised if OBJ ends up going there, but my prediction is he's going to be an LA Ram.
So I'm not worried about the Bucks, but a question for you guys on the Cowboys. You have Cooper Rush there as your quarterback. He seems to be taking over. Mm-hmm. Do you make a call to Cam Newton?
I think there were reports, I was talking to John about it before the show, that I think Mike McCarthy said they're going to look into all quarterback possibilities. So if he's the guy that's the best one on the market, I can see it happening.
I would have said Jimmy G, but it seems like San Francisco after week 1 is kind of happy that they have Jimmy G back there.
Yeah, no, they can't pay that much money to Dak and Jimmy G.
I'm not calling for Cam Newton. Cam Newton, the name value is there, but as you guys saw in New England, when he lost their job, he didn't want to be a backup, and it's tough to have him as a backup when Dak returns. And beyond that, he used not knowing the playbook as an excuse to not playing well enough for a New England team that was giving him an opportunity. And so 2 years later, no, I don't think Cam Newton is worth bringing in for the Cowboys. He can bring them some excitement, as he did last year at the Panthers. But it's like a terrible Band-Aid that you know is going to rip. And it's almost like if you dunk the Band-Aid into like a water bath and then try to put it on. It's like, okay, you have a Band-Aid, but it's not going to help you. That's the way I kind of look at Cam Newton if the Cowboys were to bring him in. Cooper Rush had a decent game for them last year, and there is some continuity there. So sorry to cut you off.
No. I don't know who else is out there for the teams. Maybe we'll touch on that more for their week 2 game against the Bengals. But all right, so let's move it on to topic number 3, and that is no Tyreek, no problem.
Mahomes heard all the doubters, all of them.
All of them. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, why do we doubt these elite quarterbacks? You know what I mean? I was listening to Orlovsky, Michael Irvin, and Ryan Clark that come on First Take, and they were all saying that, yes, Tyreek is gone. He's a special player, but now Mahomes gets to have an open offense, really. I mean, they still got Travis Kelce. People forget that Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league. But now they can work everybody. I think 9 different players caught a ball yesterday. So, I mean, y'all look out. I mean, Dan Orlovsky even said this morning on First Take, he said this is probably the best game he's seen Patrick Mahomes play in terms of fundamental quarterback play in the last couple of years. So that's high praise because Dan Orlovsky knows his football, especially quarterbacks. So kicking it to John. What do you got? I mean, you predicted the blowout. I thought it was going to be a little closer than that. But let me know how you feel.
First off, in Arizona, the signals, the red flags start waving that thing a little bit, because Cliff Kingsbury's in the post game presser talking about we need to practice better and not just show up on Sunday ready to play, which, let's say it how it is a shot at Kyler Murray after this summer when they signed him to a record-breaking contract, making him one of the highest-paid quarterbacks of all time. They left in a clause and somehow had it leaked after guaranteeing all this money to him that he had to watch a yay amount of film per week, which is just so ridiculous because I'm sure he watches that level of film. But why are you putting that in if that's a real concern when you're giving him all this money? So for the Cardinals, I mean, their defense is a disaster. We know that. It should be one of the worst in the NFL this year. Even with Chandler Jones, if he were still there, let's say, it's going to be one of the worst no matter what. Then you look at the Chiefs side, we just overlook time in and time out stability. We do it every single year. The Chiefs have one of the best offensive lines in the league. You have Mahomes going to his 6th season now, his 5th as a starter. And when you have Andy Reid in his offense, they're going to find ways to get the most out of the receivers, whether it's the deep threat and MVS, the possession receiver and Juju, who's tough, he's physical, great blocker. You have a dynamic route runner and Sky Moore who can play in the slot. He can play outside a little bit as well. This Chiefs offense can beat you every single week in a new way, but at the crux of it is the best quarterback in football. And I'm sorry, Brandon, you're between Brady and Mahomes. Do you think it's Mahomes? You still think it's Tom Brady?
Yes, dude. Why would I change that?
Tom is 45 years old, and if you put Tom in one of the worst offenses in football, I don't think he could elevate them the way Patrick Mahomes could, given what he's capable of. I think you're just looking at the legacy. I'm not going to discount Brady, man. He's the greatest of all time, but I'm not going to make LeBron James the best player in the NBA when it's just the legacy per se, not as much who is the most capable. Like if I could have Pat Mahomes go to, let's say, the Bears, I think he's going to make them a playoff 9-10 win team. With Brady, I don't really see it.
Listen, this is not a Mahomes Brady debate.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, Mahomes to me is the best quarterback in the NFL, and he heard all the people this offseason, Tua especially, or Tyreek saying Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I know he has to say that, but for Pat Mahomes, it's just more to the fire. They don't pay Tyreek $30 million, and quite frankly, trading him for draft picks was the right move. They could use Tyreek for sure because he takes their ceiling to a completely different level. But when you can make your defense better and make your offense more well-rounded, you're not putting all of your money into Tyreek Hill, while Creed Humphrey's asking for like Trent Williams money at left tackle. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to lose players that you don't want to lose, and that's kind of just the sport itself when you have a great team. So,
well, one thing on that Tyreek comment. I mean, he didn't have to say he's the most accurate quarterback. He could have praised his quarterback without going, that far. I do agree that I think all the crap that Tyreek was talking throughout the offseason definitely fired Mahomes up. I think he was basically looking at it like, you're really just going to continuously take shots at me? Like, really? Come on. Listen, I don't want to get into John with John right now about a Mahomes Brady debate because I'm a Mahomes fan. When he showed up on the scene, I didn't crown him the best quarterback in football. I said he's going to be elite for years to come. I gave him the praise. I just don't think he's an all-time great quarterback yet because he's only been in the league for like 4 or 5 seasons. Let's let this kid's career play out. But yes, this is Mahomes' time. He showed those naysayers wrong. I mean, his stats yesterday were just, 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a 94.1 QBR. That's effing phenomenal. In season openers, Mahomes 5-0, 18 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah, the Cardinals, I think, like I said, I don't overreact. I think the Cardinals will be a average to like 14th best team in the NFL or something like that. Like they'll win games, but I mean, their defense is just Jesus Christ. I mean, again, I saw JJ Watt just. I'll let you go, Justin. I saw JJ Watt just again on the sideline in street clothes. Like, are you ever gonna play my guy? Go ahead, Justin.
I know you said you're not going to overreact, but I don't think this is overreacting. I think this Arizona Cardinals defense has the chance to be one of the worst in NFL history. I'll go that far. I'll go that far. And granted, yeah, they're going against one of the best QBs in football in Patrick Mahomes. But next week you go against Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfro. The week after that, you're going against Stafford and Cup. Got a little break with the Panthers, but then you got Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders running all over you and AJ Brown downfield. This has the opportunity to be really one of the worst defenses we've seen in football. If the offense is playing that way at the same time too, I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be on the hot seat here.
He already is after getting that extension, man. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is a good head coach. And Brandon, when we started this podcast, I remember sending you a top 10 head coaches list by some media group where Cliff Kingsbury is above Mike Tomlin. You have to be off your rocker to think Cliff Kingsbury is a top 10 head coach, let alone better than freaking Mike Tomlin and John Hart. It might have been the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of stupid things, but that's not even the main point here. Vance Joseph, I mean, he's gotten a lot. Like Isaiah Simmons, Zayvon Collins, the talent is there. And I do think, Justin, this will be one of the worst, if not maybe the worst defense in the NFL this year. But I do think there is enough upside with this group. You talk about Simmons. I said it before. I mean, people were comparing him to Brian Urlacher 2 years ago in the draft. And all the athletic traits are still there with him. And you had Buda Baker in the secondary as well. You add in Trayvon Mullen, who was out from the Raiders. It should be one of the worst in football this year, but I can't go that far quite yet. I think it's all right.
I mean, I'll say this. I mean, like you said, Justin. I mean, they've got a tough schedule coming up. They play the Raiders and then the Rams. I don't know if they're gonna be able to beat those two teams. Definitely don't think they're gonna beat the Rams. Yeah, there's cause to pause in Arizona. There's definitely, ears should be up in Arizona. Everybody should be, keeping their eyes on everything, keeping their ears open. It's weird. I mean, listen. First off, on that contract that he signed, Kyler Murray, why are you signing that contract? Do you have lawyers that read the contract? Did they not see the clause? And why the hell would you sign it if you know the clause is in there?
He just want to get paid, Brandon.
You get paid. You say take the effing clause out, or I'm not signing the contract. That's on him and his lawyer. But for Kansas City, I mean, this Thursday we'll preview it on Thursday morning. But this Thursday night football game, Kansas City and LA is going to be a good one because the Chargers look. I mean, they look pretty damn good. And J.C. Jackson's not even playing. We'll get into that, but they look good. And Kansas City looked freaking good.
I do want to.
City looked so good.
I do want to say one last thing about Murray. So for your first 3 years, you've shown all the athletic traits, and after starting the year last year undefeated, you fall off a cliff. You crumble into a fetal position in the playoffs. You beg to be paid. You release this weird statement that I read it and I thought his father wrote it. They pay you, and then you look unprepared against the Chiefs. And there are many times where he didn't feel the blitz, he didn't read it coming, and he did look not only unprepared, but almost like he didn't know what was coming. Kyler Murray needs to wake up fast because, yeah, he got his money, but for as talented of a quarterback as he is, and as great as he is in fantasy football, for this guy to actually back up the investment this franchise put into him, he needs to step up and be the leader he has not been. Not only as a vocal leader, but somebody that's, Justin, you're saying before, CeeDee Lamb, take the bull by the horns and prove himself as a franchise quarterback. He's a top 10, top 5 freaking talent. But there's so many limitations to him as a player and a leader where I say to myself, Kyler Murray, I can never see him win a Super Bowl. I just think there's a certain level of leadership that he doesn't bring. And I have a hard time seeing this Cardinal team going around with his defense, even if Kyler's going to make him exciting. Overall, could the fact this is not the guy I want as my franchise leader.
Yeah, two things that we can move on if Justin doesn't have anything to say. But first thing, that Marquise Brown touchdown that he threw, it was an underthrown ball, and Marquise Brown made that play on that touchdown grab. And second one, there is no way on God's green earth that Lamar Jackson shouldn't get more money than Kyler Murray. No way in hell. Because that's all I got. I mean, Lamar, yeah.
You look at what the Cardinals have invested into Kyler, between trading for D-Hop and Marquise Brown, giving up first-round picks for Zach Ertz as well, for Marquise, but not, what's his face, DeAndre Hopkins, because of freaking Bill O'Brien being horrible. And then you look at what the Ravens have done with Lamar Jackson. It's night and day. And that's why I say that it's on Kyler Murray now. They've built the offense around you. Even if the offensive line's not above average or high level, it's on you. It's time to prove yourself.
Yep.
He should be able to be a more than competent quarterback when you got Hollywood and AJ Green on the outside. There's no excuse to make for Kyler Murray. Anybody that's out there doing so, there's none that you can make. You're spot on, John. The kid needs to grow up, to be honest with you. Grow up, step on the field, be prepared. You get paid millions of dollars to do so. Show up. Show up. You get paid like the star. You need to play like the star. And if you're not going to do that when this is a huge opportunity going against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, this is a big time to show what you guys are about. You don't bring it. They didn't bring it at all. Nobody stepped up. And I know you mentioned Isaiah Simmons. He's another player. While I know he's still a young player, and now he's really taking ownership of a defense. He's actually calling plays now, so there's more responsibility on his lap. You want to see these guys graduate and take that next step. I don't see it. I don't see it. So you could say it's an overreaction, but I really see this after week 1. This team is exactly what I thought it would be. It's mid.
I'll just say this. I mean, he better show up because he's got Vegas next week in Vegas, and he's got LA, the Rams. Then he plays the Panthers, I believe, Baker, and then they play the Philly, and then they get a reprieve with Seattle. But I mean, they could be 0-for. There's a pathway for them to be 0-for. But let's talk about a team that's not 0-for. Let's talk about the only guy on here's favorite team that didn't go 0-for this week. This is John's time to shine. He's wearing the jersey. He's wearing the Minka jersey. He got a pick 6. That was beautiful. Terrible day for Joe Burrow. I think he turned the ball over 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. 4 picks, 1 fumble. Burrow didn't really have a good game. The O-line played like absolute dog crap after I praised it personally. I praised it, said they fixed it. But John, talk to me, Goose. What you're probably feeling good, but not also good. But one thing, actually, this is great. So I just got a report about 30 minutes ago from Ian Rappaport on TJ Watt. The injury isn't expected to require surgery or end his season. He could return in 6 weeks.
So first, to react to that, it sounds great at the surface, but I do want to remind everybody how much money the Steelers guaranteed to TJ Watt. So he just had one of the greatest seasons in NFL history for an outside linebacker. He's making $112 million. And that investment is one where I don't want to play around with it and put this guy out there where he's at risk to really bang himself up. I know TJ is that go-getter, and he is cut from a different type of cloth. You just have to be that level of player. But quite honestly, not going the surgery route. Hey, look, his doctors know a hell of a lot more than me. I just get really queasy as a Steeler fan knowing he's going to be out there playing injured because he won Defensive Player of the Year last year while dealing with rib, hamstring, groin, every single injury, you name it, he was playing through them all. And he still dominated, but the entire time I say to myself, these injuries are just piling up. And I kind of just wish we can kind of give him that reset a little bit. Because you look at all of the NFL season leaders in sacks, Michael Strahan, his brother JJ, oftentimes they take a dip in the following year. And I'm really just hoping for TJ, we prioritize his health over everything else as the best player on this team. Week 1 was a good week for the Steelers. It was when we won the game, but quite honestly, Brandon, we lost the war. Losing TJ Watt is a gut-wrenching blow to this team. But before then, the Steelers' defense, which had been disrespected by everybody, saying the secondary was garbage, was ludicrous. This is one of the best defensive pass rushes and front sevens in the NFL. You talk about Cam Hayward, who's maybe the second best D end in the entire league. Tyson Alulu, Larry Onajobi, who came from the Bengals to our side, and you have a lot of depth there. And Alex Highsmith, man, you talk about Jonah Williams. He was getting cooked by Highsmith. His speed off the edge is unmatched. He has a wide variety of moves as well he's developing. Him and TJ Watt were killing it. Then Minka Fitzpatrick as the pick six. Cam Sutton was getting in there. Levi Wallace left the game with an ankle injury. But that's a very good secondary the Steelers have. With that being said, Brandon, it's funny to me, and Justin, I'm sure you noticed this, how he didn't want to mention Stafford's 3-interception performance, but Joe Burrow, who didn't play, was coming off a ruptured appendix and appendix surgery. He is the first thing he talks about at the Bengals, and he uses the offensive line as an excuse, which he should. The offensive line for the Bengals was pitiful, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But Brandon, I found that very funny how you won't mention it for Stafford, but you will for Joey Cole. What's up with that? He's coming off of surgery.
I know they're both coming off of surgery. I guess you don't want to believe that Stafford's coming off of surgery. It was an honest mistake. I forgot. I apologize. Matthew Stafford threw 3 interceptions. Are you happy? I said it. The O-line played bad. You happy? I said it.
I will
speak
say
about your goddamn Pittsburgh Steelers and their freaking win, because you're about to be a sad man next week. All right, go ahead. Have your moment in the sun.
Okay, you guys are going to come to Acrisure Stadium and get shown up, you and Belichick. With that being said, the Steelers' offense yesterday was absolutely lethargic. I was telling you guys this would be one of the more dynamic offenses in the league. Justin, you love George Pickens. I freaking love his intensity. He's really changing the narrative of a diva wide receiver. He loves to block. He loves to mess with corners. This guy is a fighter. He just represents AFC North football. He was getting open in this game, but the common theme was we had no running game. We were 4-15 on third down, which was a typical theme in the last couple of years. Najee Harris was dealing with some Lisfranc issues after having a sprain in the preseason. And whether or not he plays next week, is probably not going to be at full capacity. So you lose your running back, and we had we had 23 rushing yards from him on 10 carries. Chase Claypool actually led us in rushing yards. Do you guys know how many yards he had in total there? 36. Not a whole lot. And so Matt Canada, our offensive coordinator, dug deep into the bag of tricks, just trying to find something, and it worked. But Mitch Trubisky had one of his worst games. He had a couple of plays which could have been easily picked off. And while they weren't, and part of his job is not turn over the football, it's this weird thing with Mitchell Trubisky, where under pressure, he delivers in big-time moments. And the last minute of the game, we're coming back, he escapes pressure, with pressure in his face right after getting out of the pocket, delivers a good ball to Pat Freiermuth for 25 to 30 yards. Next play, yet again, gets out of the pocket, pressure in his face, hits Pat Freiermuth a second time over the middle. But when there was no pressure in the game, he was never connecting with Muth over the middle. He had one play to him on a reverse flea flicker, but that was really it for him and Muth in terms of their connection throughout the game. There are a few balls he threw as well. He was so inaccurate. I mean, he had one ball to Chase Claypool in the red zone, which was so behind him. Chase had to reach all the way behind him for a ridiculous catch. Another one on Deontay Johnson. You guys probably saw it all over social media where he's outside the numbers, and Mitch tries to squeeze it in there, and it was so inaccurate. He goes up like OBJ and catches it like this and gets both of his feet in. He is so lucky he has these receivers, because I'm telling you, anywhere else almost, there's only probably 4 or 5 teams in the league where those are not being picked off, those passes.
Like, Justin, you like how he said, I'm telling you, when all offseason we were the ones telling him about Mitchell Trubisky as the quarterback?
I'll be honest with you guys. I liked his athletic ability. But even still, he was hesitant in this game to just, when the play died down, either A, throw the ball away, or jettison for a first down, the way we see with the Josh Allen. And man, nothing's changed with him. I had some faith that he learned some stuff working with Brian Daboll in Buffalo, and we'll get to Daboll in a little bit. But clearly, none of that Daboll magic worked on Mitch, because so far he's been uninspiring. And if he plays like that and doesn't improve with his accuracy, especially down the field, he has a good arm. It's just like he often overthrows guys. And not only that, whether or not the ball is actually being turned over, he made one pass in overtime which should have been picked off. If he's also turned over the football while being accurate, Kenny Pickett will be their starter this season at some point. With all that being said, the Steelers' defense has to be respected. When you have Minka Fitzpatrick and Cameron Hayward, it's still going to be very competitive. It's going to give you a fight every single week. And if Mike Tomlin, man, this team is more motivated than anyone else, dude. They cut the eyelids off, and that's how they play football. I'm excited to see what this team can do on that end of the ball, but ultimately it's going to come down to our offensive line and a quarterback who's average at best.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I never said I had worries about the. I always told you I like the team in its totality. It was just the quarterback that I have questions about. But listen, man, even with the 5 turnovers, you guys are lucky you've won this game. Okay. Cincinnati loses their long snapper. Very
We
important.
lost
when
our
the
two
game,
best players. What are you talking
No,
about? They lost their long snapper.
John, I understand that, but it comes into play when the biggest 2 plays of the game are basically an extra point and a missed field goal in overtime.
And let me tell you something. It never goes to overtime if we have a healthy Najee Harris who's got full capacity to close the game in the regulation.
Okay, but
We
we're
just need
talking
one
about
first down to expire it all.
I know, but this is the play to win the game. And the snapper snaps it, and the laces are out. The picture's right there. You see the laces are out. I'm just saying, if there's you had 5 turnovers and you only beat the team by 3 points. That's a little concerning to me. Now, again, I'm not an overreaction guy on week 1.
I told you why.
But listen, I think he'll be fine with TJ. I expect him to come back. He's a tough ass guy. His brother JJ dealt with that injury. He came back in 2 months. Cam Hayward, he's a teammate, he had it. He came back. He'll be fine. He'll come back. He's played through injuries before. Najee, I mean, I don't know. Maybe John can speak on this more. I guess the injuries were the reason why he wasn't. I mean, he got 10 carries, 23 yards, O-line, injuries. Either way, I need to see a little more from Najee Harris. If the injury is that bad, then I'll give him the pass on that. But if it's not and he can play through it, then I need to see a little more. Yeah,
I could tell you another reason why, Brandon.
Yeah, I just say this last thing on Cincinnati. I'm disappointed in how they played in the O-line, really, and Joe Burrow making a couple mistakes with those interceptions because they weren't all in the O-line. I mean, he was making a couple. I think he tried to sneak one into T. Higgins that was just ill-advised. But go ahead, John. You had,
Are the Bengals overrated?
No, I think they're going to, again, I've said that. I'm not overreacting on week 1. I think they'll be fine.
Do you know why I ask that?
Yeah.
Zach Taylor still has to prove himself, and the play calling in this game specifically, where they weren't running the ball early, made no sense to me. Joe Mixon last year ate up the Steelers, and instead of setting the tone early by going to him, he sets that physical, grueling tone with his running style. That dude is a baller, a top 10 back in the league. So when you don't get him going on the first drive, and you're instead trying to air it out, the first play of the game, what happens? Cam Hayward sack. He absolutely tore up the Bengals rookie left guard. The following play, there's pressure in Joe Burrow's face again. Pick 6 to Minka Fitzpatrick. The next drive, yet again, they're still not rushing the football. They put themselves in the hole. I say to myself, Zach Taylor has proven nothing as a head coach. If it weren't for the Super Bowl run last year, he was probably going to get fired. And the defense, let me talk about that, because that's definitely not overrated. Another reason why we couldn't run the football, Brandon, DJ Reader might be the most underrated D tackle in football. That guy's like the wall of Berlin in there. So when we were trying to run the football, there was literally no push. You have him, I think it's a DJ Reader, BJ Hill, Sam Hubbard, and Trey Hendrickson. You still got Mike Hilton, Jesse Bates, Von Bell are all going to bring pressure themselves. That Bengals defense is confusing, and that's a part of the reason why the Steelers, though they got 5 turnovers, couldn't turn that into more than 7 points. They couldn't run the football, and I say to myself, that Bengals defense is what helped them get to the Super Bowl last year. But this offense, man, when the play calling's not there, can be one-dimensional. Jamar Chase is a superstar, and that's why I thought the Steelers were not going to win this game. But I say to myself, look, man, they're still not there yet. The upside for this team is winning a Super Bowl when you have those 3 receivers all on the field together. But I feel like in terms of the coaching, there's a lot to be desired. I think that ultimately holds them back.
I'm not going to overreact about the Bengals. I don't think they're overrated at all. Being that he turned the ball over 5 times and they still managed to lose by 3. As ugly as the game was, that's AFC North football. It's always going to be ugly. It's never really pretty. Um, like I said, the fact that they only lost by 3 with that many turnovers, they had every opportunity to win that ball game, and they just didn't. They shot themselves in the foot. That's really what I come out of that game with is the Bengals lost that game more than you guys won it. No offense to the Steelers there. To harp on what you said earlier about winning the battle but losing the war, I also feel like it's an overreaction too. I believe, like we've mentioned it before, Mike Tomlin is a hell of a head coach, top 3 in the game. You guys have you guys have the Patriots coming into town. Then you got the Browns. Then you got the Jets. You guys could start 4-0 here. This is a stretch where you have a very good defense. And, I'm trying my best not to be biased because I really want you guys to lose in week 2 to my Patriots. But you guys have the defense to cause trouble on Mac. You guys can stop Jacoby Brissett. Those are the quarterbacks you're going up against. You're not going up against Tom Brady, Josh Allen. That's for a couple weeks later. But you guys have enough to start 3-1, 4-0 possibly. So I'm not going to write off your Steelers and TJ Watt comes back healthy, and then you just never know if Najee Harris recovers well. So don't be so negative on your boys. You're in a better position than you guys think you guys actually are. On the Bengals note, like I said, they'll be fine. It's week 1. Joe Burrow needs to be smarter, protect the football, don't force it. Don't come out before the game saying if you go man to man, good luck, and then throw 4 interceptions. Don't bring that energy over here. If you're gonna talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. Don't throw the picks, man. Play smarter. You got a week against a Cowboys defense that is pretty tough. Pressure's going to be up in your face. Step up, play smarter, because you guys shouldn't have lost that game against Pittsburgh. Absolutely shouldn't have. But guess what? It happened, just like I said it would. It's week 1, and everything is a damn toss-up. Joe Burrow needs to play smarter. At this point, you led your team to a Super Bowl. You lost, but you got them there. You're an AFC champion now. We expect big things. We expect MVP things. And guess what MVPs don't do? Guess what champions don't do? They don't throw you into losses. So get that together, because you have 3 very good, and Jamar Chase is top 3 receiver in football right now, especially after that game. Jesus Christ, what a freaking monster that guy is. An absolute monster. How can you guard him? You can't.
You have to bracket him, but then you got T. Higgins on the other side. Higgins got concussion. We were lucky. If he didn't get hurt too, we were losing that game probably.
So, and you're 100% right on Joe Mixon. Get that bell cow the ball. Feed him the football. When things aren't going well in the pass game, let his legs do the talking. Let that happen. The Cincinnati Bengals are a very good team, very talented on both sides of the field. If they're healthy and Joe Burrow is playing smart football, they're dangerous. Your Steelers, absolutely, to me, in that division, that's a must-win game. Every divisional game is a must-win game, and your boys just went in there and took the Bengals lunch, man. Took the lunch, man.
They came out with that Black Air Force One type energy, and you felt
And,
it. Before TJ Watt got hurt. I only got white ones, to be honest with you. I'm gonna have to order some black ones, hopefully, for some Steelers vibes. TJ Watt lit Joe Burrow's clock on the Minkah Fitzpatrick pick 6. And a lot of the hits, I'll be honest, they're cheap shots. But that's the energy this team brings. They were so pissed. And the thing is, the Bengals now are actually favorites. They are not an underdog story. They're now actual contenders. They have to actually live up to expectation because they're not used to being in this position. It's all about the Ravens and the Steelers being the ones that teams get up to play them. It's not the other way around. So now for the Bengals, they have to actually live up to that standard that has been set, and it is a lot easier than done to do that year in and year out. Now, as Patriot fans, I want to ask you guys a question. Steeler fans and Pat fans have 2 of the best head coaches in the NFL. I feel like much like the Patriots, the Steelers are in absolute NFL purgatory. They're not going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon. I look at where the NFL is going, and it's predicated on high-level to superstar quarterback play. And when you have the coaching, you have the defenses, you're always going to be competent to above average. You're going to have 9 to 11 win seasons. But when it comes to making a run, man, you're so far behind the rest of the game and you're trying to do it your own way. The Steelers, they went for Kenny Pickett when they could have waited a year to go out and try to get a quarterback with a higher ceiling. And the same thing can be said with New England. Let's say it how it is. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, they're on a completely different level. So now I'm going to kick it to you guys. Are those two teams in purgatory? And if they aren't, I'm asking you the second question. Are they going to actually win a Super Bowl in the next decade? Either of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I was on record when I think actually on our first episode, I was on record. The Patriots are winning the Super Bowl in the next 5 years.
Do you have the courage of your conviction?
Yeah, I got the courage. I said it. And I say what the hell I mean when I mean what the hell I say. I'm not.
I don't see
listen, you can't. That's fine with me. I know what I see with the Patriots. And listen, if Mac continues to take progressions, he can be a perennial Pro Bowl caliber player. I'm not going to say he's a high end quarterback, but he can be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback in this league. Yeah, I think listen, my man, you started to just bring down the negativities in here. I don't, why are you talking about your Steelers and my team in the negative terms? All right, you guys just won. You should be happy. All right, Kenny Pickett, you haven't even seen what he is. You don't even know if he can ball out and be like, okay, this guy, he's got all the physical gifts. So, I mean, listen, the last thing I'll say on this topic, right, is with Cincinnati, they won almost all year last year the way that they played yesterday. Joe Burrow getting sacked a bunch of times and him having to, convert on long downage and whatnot. He did it all season last year. It's not a recipe for success. It needs to change. The O-line needs to play better. Zach Taylor, you will be looked at if this team fails. You're the one who's getting the finger pointed at because they're not pointing at Burrow. They won't point at Jamar Chase. They won't point at the defense. They will point it strictly at you because they believe in everybody else on that team. But you're the one guy that they're like, I don't know about you, man. I really don't. So he's got to watch his P's and Q's. Cross his T's, dot your I's.
So you asked about those two teams in NFL purgatory, and man, it is looking kind of rough. I look back at what the AFC looked like. The best two teams, the only two quarterbacks you were actually scared of was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady in the AFC. Now you have Herbert, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, so many guys, man. And now Russell Wilson's in the AFC.
And right now he's getting his ass kicked by his former team too.
Yeah. So, but he's still Russell Wilson. So the AFC is absolutely stacked. There are so many teams that you have to go through. And I'm not going to knock my Patriots like that, but I have some questions on Bill Belichick's decisions lately. I'm a big believer in, in Bill we trust. But lately, without Tom Brady under center, you got to question some decisions. And then for Pittsburgh, you don't know. It's still remaining to be seen what Kenny Pickett will be. So I'm not going to really comment on Pittsburgh because maybe Kenny Pickett can be an absolute star for you guys. We just haven't seen that yet.
So Javonte Williams just had his own version of the butt fumble in the red zone. He collided with his center's rear end and fumbled the football into the end zone.
I saw the fumble, but I'm dude. When I'm 70 years old, I hope I could do high knees the way Pete Carroll does when he gets excited, man. I hope I can move like that.
Boy. All right. So moving on to the next topic. Oh boy, this one was a heartbreaker for Brandon. Carolina Panthers versus the Cleveland Browns.
Let us all down.
And I'm going to kick this one off because I got some stuff I got to get off my chest.
Serenity now, Brandon. Serenity now.
12-win Panthers, right?
God damn it. The Panthers were robbed. They were absolutely robbed in this game. And I'm going to tell you how in a little bit. But I will say, because we're objective here, right? John likes to call me out and say I'm not. But here you go. The Panthers and Baker Mayfield started off very slow. They didn't start off well. First 2 drives, 3 and outs. Third drive, punted. Fourth drive, interception. Baker missed the receiver high after getting the ball tipped a bunch of times. He just, sometimes when you're going too low, you oversail it too high. And he oversailed it too high and he threw an interception. Fifth drive, 3 and out. Sixth drive, down 14. This is where Baker shows up. Baker drives them 75 yards, 6 plays. 7 yards to CMC, 16 to DJ. Then he goes 50 to Tremble, the tight end, and another 1 yard pass to Tremble at the goal line, carries it to CMC, gets him a touchdown. Now it's 14-7. Then we go to the next drive that they have. So the defense, and this was a precursor, and people should have had their eyes open because this is exactly what happened in the last drive of the game. In the last 2 minutes, the defense surrenders a field goal at the end of the first half to make it 17-7. So a little foreshadow of what happened at the end of the game. Then they start off the second half. They punt it. Then the defense gives up another field goal, so they're down 20-7. On the 8th play, Baker drove them. Not really Baker, actually. It was more of the team effort. CMC had a lot to do with it that drive. 11 plays, 75 yards. Baker scrambles in for a touchdown towards the 15-yard line or whatever, and now it's starting to get a close game, 20-14. So it's 1 score game now. The defense surrenders another field goal, which is fine. Keeps it within striking range, 2-point game. On the 9th drive, Baker delivers. Come on, man. Did you guys see this pass? Y'all saw this pass. 75 yards to Robbie Anderson on a freaking rope while moving. Don't talk about my boy's arm, all right?
Coming off the torn labrum.
Torn labrum, huh? I told you. He's got to get the whip in it. You know what I mean? He's got to whip it. Then let me read these notes here because they get a little confusing for me sometimes. So it's 23-21. And I right here at the game, I was like, okay, the defense needs to hold. The defense needs to get a hold right here. They get a stop. They force a punt. Baker on his 10th drive, he goes to DJ Moore, gets 26 yards. CMC gets 4. Then he gets 21 plus a 15-yard penalty with the horse collar on that play. Baker fumbles the snap. He had 4 fumbles in that game. None of them were lost. They all were recovered, but he was having a little trouble. That center was snapping it too low. He was not. It was just they'll gain that over time. The chemistry will come over time. I have faith in that. Week 1 jitters, I guess, for that center, but Baker's able to drop on it and recover that ball. They run it a second time. They run it a third time for no gain, and then they run it. They run it once, no gain. They run it again. They lost 1 yard, and I hate that so much because this was in the final minutes of the game in the fourth quarter. You're at the 20-something yard line, I believe, or something like that. I don't have it written down, but I hate this so much when coaches do this. You play not to lose instead of playing to win. Why are you not putting the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands? Run a screen pass to CMC. He's your best player. Give him the ball then. Just don't just give it to CMC running up the middle, no gain, and then lose a yard. I hate when coaches do that. It's so conservative. You play not to lose, and instead you play to win. The perfect example is look at the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl, okay? And then, like I said, the foreshadow. And this is where I mean that they got robbed, that I began this little rant. So they kick the Panthers make a field goal, and it's 24-23 with 1:13 remaining. And these freaking refs. I don't know what to call it.
Justin, you know what this is? This is what happens when you put your money on the Panthers winning 12 freaking games.
This is not what happened.
And you have to find ways to allocate your disappointment.
Oh, yeah. I'd love you to go watch this play, John, if you know which play I'm talking about. The phantom roughing the passer play. Where they said that, I forgot the defender's name. Oh, Brian Burns. Yes, Brian Burns. Hit Jacoby Brissett in the head with his hand. He didn't freaking hit him. Go back and watch the play. He whiffed. He missed. The offensive lineman bumped Jacoby Brissett and made him fall backwards. It was a complete phantom call. They threw the flag at first. Then another official comes in and says, "Oh no, maybe we should take another close look at it." And they decided, "Oh no, it wasn't a rough. It was rough." And it's just like, come on, man. Okay.
So what was the end result?
So I'm going to get to that. Don't worry. I foreshadowed, John. God. The second to last play for Cleveland, and this one was, this is ridiculous. And I don't know how you guys right here are going to sit here and tell me the letter of the law says if you're spiking the ball and you take a step back, you have now begun a throwing motion or whatever it says. That is intentional grounding what he did. And Matt Rule on the sideline was screaming at the top of his lungs, "That's effing intentional grounding." And the refs say, "Oh no, it was a fake spike," and then he spiked it. Go back and look at that play, Justin and John. You tell me if he fake spiked it or if he took the step back, because that's intentional grounding. And I guess the refs this week just had there was a note in this week's ref notebook and said, let's not call intentional grounding because we'll get to it in the Patriots game where Tua got away with like 4 different unintentional grounding calls and they didn't call it at all. And then, like John says, Mr. Cade York from LSU, a kicker they took in the 4th round. Another Mason crossbar, but not even the crossbar. This guy kicks it at 58 yards. This thing is hooking right. And then just at the last second, sails left and goes straight in the middle and hits the net. It would have been good from 60-plus yards. I don't know. Somebody just talk because I don't know what to do.
You know what this sounds like? This sounds like a bunch of excuses.
That's exactly.
This sounds like a bunch of excuses.
This is what happens.
I'm sorry to. No, dude, John, please help me here.
This is what
I don't
happens.
know. Yeah, you bet on this team
to over your head, and you think this is a freaking playoff team. Let's talk about that Brian Burns hit. The reason it was called is because there was forcible contact to the head and neck area. I saw Skip Bayless talking about that.
No, there wasn't.
You see Brissett's head cocked back, and the NFL, they're trying to cut back on that. But with that being said, Brandon, here's the thing. The Steelers had a handful of calls called against them in that Cincinnati game that weren't called against the Bengals, and it allowed the Bengals to get back into that football game. Did I mention that once and the Steelers upsetting offensive performance? Of course I didn't. But when we talk about the Panthers, look, man, you're not going to admit it, but Baker Mayfield got traded to the Panthers for a 5th-round pick, and he lost to Jacoby Brissett. And you couldn't say that yourself. And guess what? If you can't beat the Browns without Deshaun Watson, you're lucky. He lost to Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett threw the ball away, threw the game away. You can have that phantom roughing the passer call, whatever. You
the
can't
same way the Patriots still haven't been to it, Brandon. At the end of the day.
John, explain to me the fake spike that wasn't a fake spike.
This is what I'm saying, though, man. In order for you to be in that situation, Baker played poorly and didn't deliver early in the game, and they got nothing going in the first quarter. You put yourself in that position, and you can't use the refs to blame because in every single game you can point to those calls.
Did you see Baker in the 4th quarter? Did you see Baker in the 4th quarter?
Sure.
Yeah, because on the last, I think 3 drives he scored. All right, I think in the 4th quarter he was 6 for 8 or something, 6 for 7 for 100+ yards and a touchdown.
Let me ask you this, Brandon.
That's awesome, but this is a 12-win team, right? So this 12-win team should not be down 17 to 20 to 7 against the Cleveland Browns.
Did Did he not come back?
They came back. He lost.
And
he
lost.
did come back.
Because you got all right, fine. Then please stop negating the question that I asked you both. Explain to me the fake spike that wasn't a fake spike.
That's fine. We could point to the fake spike, but this is the NFL. We could point to so many games. I guarantee you, if we go into a comment section of all the teams that losses, all these fans are going to point to some call that happened in each game. Look at that. You've already pointed out multiple.
No,
you pointed out the Patriots ones. You pointed out intentional groundings from Miami.
No.
It happens.
I'm pointing it out. The ones that it's the final play of the freaking game. If it's called intentional grounding, it's a 10-second runoff. The game's over, and the Panthers win. Tell me that doesn't.
If you get another field goal in the first half,
timeout.
You win.
Tell me that does not directly impact the outcome of the game.
It does, and I won't knock that, but it happens. It happens. Your boy Baker lost. He got off to he played a poor first half.
And Justin, he still hasn't said it.
Did Baker play a poor first half?
He played a poor first half. I said he started off slow.
And guess what? That directly led to them losing. You get off to a cold start and you think you could hit the microwave button for 15 minutes and think that you're going to win the game. No, the football is not just 15 minutes. Baker did not play a good enough game. If he played the first 30 minutes remotely decent, maybe they get 2 field goals or just one. They just needed one field goal in the first half to win the game. Just one. I'm not against your boy Baker, but I told you, these Panthers can and will. They will find a way to lose games.
7 points in 3 quarters.
Jacoby Brissett had
a doing the fourth quarter when the money's made.
If you can't beat this Browns team, Brandon, look, all the talk was about Baker's revenge. The fact of the matter was, it was the Browns, because at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield led to them missing the playoffs last year. And when the Panthers this year lose more games than the Browns, who are going to be without their quarterback for 11 weeks, but you'll be with the ones telling you, hey, look, dude, 12 wins for this Carolina team was a lot. And now you're starting to realize, oh, shoot, they got to win 12 games. And they just lost one of their easiest opportunities to kickstart the year. If there was any game where Baker was going to show up, it was that one. And guess what? It took him to the fourth quarter to do it, and it was too much too late. A day late and a dollar short, as they say.
First off, he doesn't have to win 12 games. That was not my prediction. My initial prediction was they will be the wild card playoff.
You said 12 wins.
No, but did I say that first, or was that when we went through the schedule?
You said I had this team winning 12 games. So the Heat's going to come.
What did I say first, though? I said they will be a wild card playoff team.
We're going to go on, and I'm going to play this live into the mic, my friend. Okay? How's that? We'll carry on with this discussion.
When they're a wild card playoff team,
you're still in. You're not.
Listen,
you're not backing down.
Like I said, you guys are having your good laugh at me, but I'll have the last laugh, especially when they play the Giants next week and they beat the crap out of JQ's team.
So right? we're bashing Brandon about Baker, a Baker's dud. I love it, but let's talk about the Browns real quick. I just want to spotlight Nick Chubb, man. What an absolute animal that guy is in that draft. I mean, Saquon and him came out in the same draft, and they both had huge days this Sunday. Nick Chubb, 22 carries for 141 yards. We talk about bell cows, and one, that's a running back. So I'm just going to touch on fantasy a little bit. He fell in drafts. He was not viewed as one of the top 5 backs in football, but this man definitely is. Week in and week out, he's probably the most consistent between the tackles running back that's in the league right now. But I digress.
You guys had your fun?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on.
Very good. J.C. Horn, who was showing a lot of potential before he got injured last year. You still got Shaq Thompson coming off an injury, and Chad Chin at the safety, who's an athletic freak. I got them finishing 12-5.
I never said that I didn't say it, though.
You're saying that you had him as a wild card team. You didn't mention
No,
that once.
my thing was that yes, I did. My initial prediction was they will be a wild card playoff team.
Yeah, months ago. But when it came down to the
months
ultimate,
ago?
a month
when did
ago.
he get traded? It was in late July.
Yeah, a month ago.
It was last month.
Yeah, but when it came down to your final prediction, the first thing you said was, "This is a 12-win team that'll finish second in the AFC South behind the Bucks."
Crap! As long as they make it into the playoffs,
I would be shocked if they win 8 games. I would.
Yeah, well, you're prepared to be shocked and all, buddy. All right.
Yeah, Baker's gonna prove us wrong, right? Just like he did this last week.
100%. He got robbed. Next up. I'm going to kick it to you right away, Justin, because I don't want to talk anymore. Las Vegas versus the LA Chargers. The Chargers take a big win. Derek Carr plays like crap. Go ahead. Kick it. I'm set.
I won't overreact about the Raiders losing. Derek Carr, he definitely threw them into a loss, but there was some upside. I was questioning the connection between Derek Carr and Davante Adams. Would it be as explosive as what Aaron Rodgers was with Davante? And it was magnificent. 10 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. Darren Waller started to step it up a little later in the game. I think he needs to spread the wealth a little bit more. Don't just completely eye Davante the whole way through. You have weapons, man. Hunter Renfrow is a big time reception receiver. I knew that Davante going into that offense, it was going to eat into his targets a bit, but still he needs to be utilized. Renfrow's awesome. And Waller should be a staple in that offense. So I won't overreact on the Raiders, but man, those Chargers. Justin Herbert made some throws that I don't even know how the hell he fit them through some pockets, man. It was like he was throwing it into another dimension or something like that. He threw one touchdown. It was in between two defenders. At first, I don't even know how the receiver even caught the football. I wish I had the videos to just pop right here and show you guys some of them. But Herbert's day, 26 for 34, 279, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Absolute monster. Keenan Allen, still consistent as always. Only 4 catches for 66, but he found a bunch of different receivers. How many people caught a football that game? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different players on that team caught a football. The defense stepped up. Khalil Mack is still an absolute monster. Derwin James is legit. And shouts out to Asante Samuel Jr., bro. Shout out. No JC Jackson out there, and somebody had to step up there and be that top DB, and he really did. So I think the only thing that, I said earlier in the show that we didn't learn anything about teams going into after this week, but I can say this. I'm wrong about that. We learned something about the Chargers. The Chargers are freaking legit. And while they were just missing the postseason last year, this is a team that's a shoo-in. And not only are they a shoo-in for the postseason, but they're a Super Bowl contender.
The Raiders are overhyped. Davante Adams and Derek Carr is a special connection. We saw Derek go in there early. Look, before Davante was a superstar in Green Bay, it was him and Derek that formed that connection in the Tay nickname. Las Vegas's offensive line is one of the worst in football. And later in the year, they're going to continue to struggle running with this offensive line. And ultimately, Derek Carr as well, while he's gotten the due respect as one of the better quarterbacks in the league, he's not top 10, he's not top 12. I look at him closer to a Carson Wentz or Ryan Tannehill than I do a Justin Herbert or any of those guys. I think Derek Carr is around 12 to 13. I have my top 8 quarterbacks, and I have the Kyler Murray's, Deshaun Watson's. Then around that 10 to 12 bubble, I might put a Dak Prescott or a Kirk Cousins above him, because right now I'm seeing what Kirk Cousins can do with some legitimate offensive line help and a pass-first offense. I'm saying to myself, damn, Kirk might be a little bit underrated himself too. Maybe this is the year where he gets his due respect. I think Derek Carr this year is going to throw for a lot of yards. He's going to sling the football around 35 times a game, and there's so many weapons here. But the defense, let's say how it is, beyond Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, it's not very impressive. And the offensive line, I think, is really what's going to be the limiting factor with this team. I'm expecting them to get no more than 9 wins.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it pretty quick. This is a fun stat though. Josh McDaniels became the 4th straight Raiders head coach to lose their debut game. So all these coaches aren't starting off well in can't call Oakland and Vegas, I guess. Yeah, Carr picked off 3 times. Mack had 3 sacks. Vegas is really what I thought they were. I'm really with John on this. I mean, Devontae looked great, but I think that's really all they got, to be honest. I mean, I know Jacobs is solid. Darren Waller's top 3 tight end, but I just don't see this team really going anywhere. And especially this team, this Chargers didn't even have J.C. Jackson, and they still were able to do what they did, picking him off 3 times. Asante Samuel Jr. is a real chip off the old block. I mean, he is going to be a great player. I really wish New England drafted him. But yeah, I mean, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, they all looked great. Khalil Mack he could, if he keeps playing like this, not only will he win comeback player of the year, he could win defensive player of the year.
Still there to remind the Raiders they may be.
Yeah, I do gotta say, I do feel like, last thing, that if this Los Angeles Chargers team last year, I feel they would have lost this game. But this is a new team, and I believe that they have now figured it out, and they're like, okay. And I think this is a team, them and the Bengals, because I know John also has questions about both their coaches, and I do too. These are teams that can win kind of in spite of their head coaches because of the talent they have on the offense and defense. But moving on to
real quick on the Raiders. I know you guys are calling them overrated, but this is a team that just lost by 5 points. They were still in this football game. They didn't get absolutely smacked. If they get off to a better start, we might be talking about this a little different. So I would say just pump the brakes on those overrated talks, because a lot of it can change.
Well, I didn't say they're overrated. I just said I think who they. Vegas.
No, I know. John used that quote. If I'm not
I said
mistaken,
they're overhyped.
Yeah, overhyped. Yeah, my bad. But I do believe that they're all still new head coach.
Yeah.
Now, new number 1 wide receiver. Everything is still has to mesh. Still has to come together.
Yeah, kind of like Carolina and Baker, but you didn't bring any of that up. That's fine.
This is totally different. This is a team with.
It's totally different. Yeah, it's totally different.
They were
bigger expectations.
That was an exciting game, but I really just think, Justin, their limitations up front and Derek Carr, just generally speaking, that shined, and I don't think that really will take it, especially the O-line. I don't think that will take a step up during the season, which is why I'm like, hey, look, I think they're prone to regression after overachieving a year ago. Some team in the AFC is going to take a step back, and I think they're one of them. And they're going to stay around that 9-win mix, and not much more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If I'm not mistaken, I had them making the postseason. So, but it remains to be seen. We'll see.
You did, yeah. So moving on to the next game. Our New England Patriots, Justin, against the Miami Dolphins. We still can't catch a break. Justin, you want to kick this one off, or does the non-Patriots fan John want to kick it off?
I'll straight up just say this: Tua didn't beat us.
Yeah, no.
So I'll be honest. I can only speak so much on the game because I didn't have the opportunity to watch it. But from what I did get to see, we lost, but it wasn't because of Tua. Tyreek Hill is still an absolute animal. Jalen Waddle is very quick. I saw a touchdown to Jalen Waddle where the guy split 3 safeties, man. Three safeties there. This guy's so quick. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. It was a good ball by Tua. Jalen Waddle did the rest of the work. But throughout the whole game, it wasn't Tua. It was New England not being able to do enough. The constant problem that I always see with the Patriots is we don't have receivers that create enough separation. And one of the things that pissed me off was Kendrick Bourne not being out there. Don't come at me and say this is where I mentioned earlier that I questioned some of Bill Belichick's decisions after the game. Says, oh, all of our offensive talent or our skill players will get the opportunity to prove themselves at some point. Kendrick Bourne is arguably your best receiver. So are you going to sit here and tell me? I know that, and you know what? Call me crazy, but I'm not trying to come at a genius head coach because Lord knows he knows way more football than I will ever comprehend. But you can't tell me your best receiver shouldn't be out on the field 80% of the time. At least he should be out there all the time. He's your most explosive receiver in an offense that lacks explosiveness. So, yeah, let me pull my most explosive receiver. It makes 0 sense to me. 0 sense. And guess what? His one catch went for 41 yards. Don't tell me that he doesn't belong on the field. Don't feed me Nelson Aguilar. Don't feed me Devontae Parker. Yes, I believe in Jacoby Myers because he's a possession receiver, but don't feed me that BS and give me Ty Montgomery. No, give me Kendrick Bourne, who still has a lot to prove in the league, who still has some polishing, and he still can grow in the game. We know what we're getting from some of these guys. Put him out on the field. Don't let him sit there and rot on the bench. And, I saw a video of him. He was pissed off back there. And I would be too.
Yeah.
I would be too. This is an offense that needs explosiveness. Put him out on the damn field. I don't care what you say, Bill. I'm kind of tired of it. Tom Brady's not under center anymore. You need that. You need that out there.
No. Listen, I agree with all your sentiments. Listen, I held up 2 because that's how many snaps Kendrick Bourne got the entire game. 2 snaps. 1 target. The 1 target was the biggest play of the entire game. I told you guys before the season, Kendrick Bourne is our best receiver. He's our most. You put the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker. He can make plays. And Mike Jones delivered a beautiful deep ball to him for the 41-yard reception. It was beautiful, and I just, I don't, I said before on our Thursday episode that this was a must-win game for Bill Belichick. I stand by that, but I also don't have major concerns for New England because I got to stand behind Bill and just be like, you know what? I think he's going to figure it out. I don't know how a genius like him can't look at yesterday's game and say, we got to get this guy Kendrick Bourne in the game more. Like, I just don't know how you can't see that, and I hope he does see that. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris, 9 carries for 48 yards. You got to get him the ball more, man. Mac Jones dealing with back spasm. He says he's going to be okay, so hopefully he's going to be okay. I know you guys don't like me bringing up penalties, but it was clear as day on the first drive where we were looking really good. And I don't know if you're able to catch the first drive, Justin, but Mac was looking real good. The offense was moving. We were at Miami's 22-yard line. He throws a ball to the end zone on Xavier Howard to Devontae Parker, and Xavier Howard just holds him for like 5 yards at the end of the play, and the ref doesn't call it. Howard's able to tip it up, and the safety picks it like it was nothing, and it just that started the downpour right there. It was 20-7 in the fourth quarter, and we still had a chance to win the game. The Pats' final drive with 6 minutes left. Mac goes 11 to Jonnu, then a 41 bomb that we talked about to KB. Then 2 plays later, Mac hits Aguilar on a drag. Aguilar gets rocked, fumbles the ball. And I when I first saw that play, I was surprised. And it kind of gives me terrible nightmare flashbacks to the Eagles Super Bowl with Tom Brady, where the flat was wide open. Ty Montgomery was wide open in the flat. Take the flat. Don't force it in the middle where your receiver is going to get popped. And Nelson Aguilar did get popped. Good sign. Only 3 penalties. I'm pretty sure last year we had major penalty issues in week 1. So that's a good sign that Bill's at least got him coached up there. But 3 turnovers can't happen. It's just bad. It's not good football. Bill can't stand for good football. And last thing I got to say is we're on to Pittsburgh.
Let me tell you guys, and I said this before, the lack of explosiveness and just pure get-off or star power on this Patriots team is why they're not a playoff squad. You look at the rest of the AFC and this division, in fact, the Dolphins' defense is one of the best in the NFL, and as you saw yesterday, you guys couldn't put points up on the board against them, and now you go to a team like Pittsburgh, you had to play Buffalo twice this year, the Dolphins again, and heck, even the Jets' defense looked pretty good on Sunday to start against the Ravens, though they basically had no running game with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards both out. Against top-tier defenses, this Patriots offense, maybe Kendrick Bourne does play more than 2 snaps, like you said, and he can be that vertical dimension and Tyquan Thornton comes off IR and there's some pop there and some explosiveness. But until then, I mean, Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Devontae Parker, none of those guys are really going to add that pure take the top over a defense, game-changing plays the way Tyreek Hill can, Stephon Diggs, heck, even Gabriel Davis. And when your quarterback's not Josh Allen, it makes that all that much more harder. Mac is good, but I don't think he's good enough to really take a team with this much limitations on offense and put it up to an elite level, especially with all the turnover they've had on this roster. So yeah, man, I mean, I feel like the Patriots are in purgatory just like the Steelers did win. I feel like those two teams right now are kind of just stuck in the middle where they're competent, they're going to be competitive, they're going to be good and well coached, but there's limitations here, and it's why they're not Super Bowl contenders, and especially for the Patriots, not a playoff team for me.
You know, I think Mac can be a very good quarterback, and not only a very good quarterback, I think he can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But as I mentioned to Brandon before, when one day we were just yelling at each other about Josh Allen, I was like, the pieces have to come together. And I feel that way about the Patriots. The pieces have to be there. If you're not going to give Mac Jones a legit number one, which for some reason the Patriots seem so stubborn to go out there and get one, and they've been stubborn like that for a very long time to go out there and get a true number one receiver. I get it. You don't want to pay anybody. But guess what? The reason, because you don't want to pay anybody, you don't want to pay that skilled position, we're going to get burnt for it. And you know what? You're not helping your quarterback truly progress by doing so. So really, how are you putting your team in position to win when you're not really investing into your quarterback? And not only the skill position, but you go out there this season and give me Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as your OC combo potentially, allegedly. I don't even know what the hell was going on. Who was calling the plays yesterday? Do we know?
I think it was Matt Patricia, but I'm not freaking sure.
Yeah, I don't even know either. So that's the problem. We don't know. And I'm sorry, and I'm speaking so passionate about it because I'm a very angry Patriot fan, and I'm kind of fed up with it. I'm really fed up with the nonsense. So last year was a very good year, and it kind of reminds me, you know how, Brandon, you said we're 5 years away. You believe we could win a Super Bowl in one of the next 5 years. My favorite baseball team is the New York Yankees. In 2017, we added a youth movement. Things looked amazing. We were playing with house money, much like the Patriots were last season. House money. Go in there, see what you got. Now, the next season, you're supposed to invest in your team. The Yankees in 2018 got Giancarlo Stanton. What did the Patriots do the next season? What did they do to invest in their team?
Well, we didn't have cap space.
Yeah.
Next year,
you spend it.
Next year we do have cap space. I think we're the 4th highest cap space in the league. Next year, or three or four, whichever one it is.
And I really hope we step up, dude. I want to see. I can't wait till Tyquan Thornton comes back on the field because I really want to see what we have in that receiver. Maybe he's the explosiveness that I'm talking about, but I have serious concerns.
Here's what I'll say, and then we can move on if nobody has anything else to say. I do 100% believe this. If we don't make the playoffs, or let's say we make the playoffs and get bounced in the first round like last year, Robert Kraft is going to pull Bill Belichick into his office and he's going to have a talk with him and he's going to say, this has got to stop. We need offensive weapons. Not like he's going to fire him. He's not going to be on the hot seat, John.
But you guys have Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, okay. Funny jokes, John. I can't wait for next week.
It's going to be a movie.
He's going to pull him into his office and he's going to tell Bill, listen, I don't care about your goddamn philosophy, okay? Get this kid a number one receiver. Get this kid some real talent. And listen, I like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and them. They are good players who I believe can have Pro Bowl caliber upside. I've said that. I believe that. They need someone else to open up the field for them, though. They also need – I'm not going to be a big concern about it because I'm not that concerned about it, the offensive coordinator. But I think Mac, as long as he takes his progressions right, he's a smart kid, dude. I think he could I'm not going to overreact. I've had my overreaction with the Patriots. I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be just fine.
What makes you feel that way? Purely Belichick? That's enough to override some of the offensive flaws?
Not really that, but from what I saw yesterday, that was a very winnable game for us. And like Justin said, we lost that game. Tua didn't beat us. I don't think even Miami beat us. I think we beat ourselves.
They did beat you, and they were the better team.
Okay, John, yes, literally.
That's with the rookie head coach.
Literally, they beat us, but they didn't really beat us. It just is. I mean, we didn't have our best offensive player on the field for the whole game, basically. Kendrick Bourne makes a difference. We didn't really go over the game, but I did bring you, and you don't like penalties, but you could go back and look at the play that the guy gets hold, and it's right there. And the commentators are talking about it. Everybody's Belichick screaming about it. I mean, this stuff happens, and you don't want to bring it up for your team. That's fine by me. That's your prerogative. I'm going to bring it the hell up because it shouldn't happen when it's that blatant. But again, yes, I'm fine because I believe yesterday's game was a very winnable game for New England. We had a chance to win. Yes, down 2 scores in the fourth. We had a chance to win that game in the fourth quarter. If we drove together and scored a touchdown on that drive where Nelson Aguilar fumbled, it's 14-20. Momentum swings. You know about momentum. Tua's now going to have to pressure on him. The running game's going to have pressure. Anything can happen.
Yeah, you just got to keep your best players on the field. Bill has this big issue that, before we switch topics, he sat Wes Welker for the first drive of a big game. I believe it was a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. And Malcolm Butler not playing at all against the Philadelphia Eagles. Just play your best players. I don't know if there was something that went on outside of that, but
he did get that scuffle in the joint scrimmage, I think, with the Dolphins in August. Got into a fight. So Belichick's maybe disciplined him, even though he denied it.
But you know what, man? It's week 1 of the season. Whatever happened in the past, leave it there. If you got to punish somebody, you punish them at practice. Don't take it out in the game when you actually need to win games.
More likely than not, he might have went out in those 5 days that they went to Miami early. And that could have been a thing that I talked about on a Thursday preview, but we don't know. But yeah, Bill, you got to listen, if you want to punish them for a quarter, for a half, that's fine, but play them majority of the game at least. All right, moving on to our final topic.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
My message to football fans is you can use the injury excuse now in week 1, but just remember, just like it is to these football players, most of these referees haven't officiated a real game in 8 months. And for them too, they're going to be shaken off the rust. And so, Brandon, no, you used it, but you can apply these, especially if all these close games, the penalties and all those excuses, but you won't be able to use that for too long because as the year goes on, we're not going to see in every single game questionable calls being made. Yes, every single game will have some, but this week, you look even the Bears 49ers game, you could mention of almost every single game this week that there were questionable calls. And I'm just saying, use it now while you can because you're not going to be able to all year long. I don't know. You might find a way to hit the Panthers one way or another. We'll see.
I'll bring it up if it causes you to lose the game. If it directly impacts the outcome of the game.
The Panthers are going to be 5-11. You're still going to be using that.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the final topic. And since John likes to be a little chatterbird today, how about you kick us off, John? Green Bay versus Minnesota. I think you called that you thought Minnesota had a real chance to steal it. I thought that they could steal it. Rodgers, for a second year in a row, blunder in Green Bay. What do you think? Question marks or no concern?
Well, I had the Packers taking this one, but I expected David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins were both questionable to play. They're on the injury report, and the Packers have always been one of the more conservative teams with injuries. But I'm saying to myself, I at least think Jenkins is going to play, and they're really just using that to throw off the Vikings and their rookie head coach. But ultimately, neither of those two played. It's kind of funny. The line for this game, the betting odds actually changed because Allen Lazard was out. Oh, scary. And ultimately, on Rodgers' first attempt of the game, if I'm not mistaken, throws a beautiful football to Christian Watson. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling fashion just goes right through his fingertips. I mean, if you could have given the kid stick him, I still don't think he would have caught it. If you look at the way the football just went straight through his hands. And I just said to myself, oh man, he took the money, Aaron, but he's going to soon regret this at some point. Now, let me say this. I had the Vikings losing this game, and the Packers every single year almost with Matt LaFleur come out lethargic in these games. The Packers looked completely unprepared against the Vikings. The offensive line was terrible. They ran the ball efficiently, but we're seeing, even when he had Devontae Adams, he's never trusted another receiver in the post-Jordy Nelson era. The only one was Randall Cobb, so they brought him back. But outside of third down, I mean, Randall Cobb's got nothing. And Sammy Watkins, let's talk about him. I don't know how he's still in the NFL. I don't know what he brings to this Packers team. He's here. He's a veteran. He's been around the league. He used to be that vertical threat. He is not anymore. And I'm saying to myself, look, Aaron does not want to work with these rookies. And I get it. It is frustrating. They are raw and they need seasoning. But the reason why I had the Packers as a top 5 team, even after this loss, is because of the fact Christian Watson has that take the top over their defense, vertical threat that can absolutely burn Patrick Peterson to a crisp on a go route, and Romeo Doubs, when you get the football in his hands, he should have been a day 2 pick at the very least, can add a dimension to this offense that can make up for losing Devontae Adams. You will never replace the telepathy he and Devontae and Aaron had together. But when you look at the running game, it's one of the best in the NFL. Robert Tonyan is healthy. And so now we're going to talk about Jair Alexander. He is healthy as well, one of the best cover corners in the game. The defense should be one of the 7 best in the league. And let's say it how it is. Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, is a top 3 quarterback, man. Ultimately, it comes down to the Packers saying, you know what, Aaron? You took the money. It's time to put your money where the mouth is, or your mouth where your money is. And have some patience with these young receivers. You have to work with them. You have to figure this thing out because Sammy Watkins is going to do nothing for you in January. And to make a run in the playoffs, you need Christian Watson to make plays for you. So while they benched him after that drop and it was terrible, the Packers, number 1, the coaching and overall the offensive line play should be better. But number 2, if they want to go all the way this year, it's going to come down to doing something Rodgers has never been comfortable with.
So, just to piggyback on that, Christian Watson, they did after that. They did bench him and didn't target him for basically the whole game until the fourth quarter, I believe, where he targeted him on one pass. Watson caught it, but on the very next play, they tried like a little bubble screen where Randall Cobb was blocking the receiver, and Watson had no idea the ball was coming to him. Another miscommunication. The DB almost intercepted it. Thank God Randall Cobb was there to break it up, but and Rodgers is just like shaking his head like. I mean, you're going to play yourself right into the doghouse. You keep making those rookie mistakes, which are rookie mistakes. I look at this game and it's just a lot of miscommunications. Rookies playing like rookies. I just think, I mean, like you said, John, Bakhtiari was out. Who was the other guy? Jenkins at right back. Yeah, he was out. Lazard was out. Their left guard, Runyon, got concussed in the game. He got taken out. And Quay Walker, with a shoulder injury, he left early too. I don't have major concerns with Green Bay. I'm like with Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to put my trust in these elite quarterbacks. I believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to figure it out. There's going to be growing pains. They're young players. I agree with John. I don't know why Sammy Watkins is still here. I mean, he wasn't able to succeed with Patrick Mahomes, not able to succeed with Aaron Rodgers. This guy's a bust. He never panned out. I'm fine. Listen, Kirk usually plays well against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. He likes to ball out, I guess. But I think Kirk will end up being Kirk again, and he's just, he's not going to be that guy. He's not.
That's what you're going to chalk it up to?
Yeah.
Justin.
Because, again, he's going to happen. All right. Yeah, we'll go through the season, and then I'll come back.
Kirk's about to have a career year. Kirk. Justin, I got to ask you the question. Are we about to see the real Kirk Cousins? Has he been underrated?
I think Kirk Cousins is very disrespected. I mean, but then again, you look at his prime time record, it's you could crap on him all you want. But Kirk Cousins is still a very good quarterback. He's not an average NFL QB. There's a lot of teams that would kill for him, I believe, at the moment. One thing I want to say about the game is apparently Jair Alexander was begging to shadow Justin Jefferson, but instead the Packers just decided to not guard the guy at all. So I don't know what the hell was going on, but Justin Jefferson, an absolute monster. The guy had Cooper Kupp numbers in the first half of the game. And I remember I asked you guys, is this guy going to have like a Cooper Kupp like season now with Kevin O'Connell in the fold? And I think week one just told us, yep, very much so. So, yeah, I believe it might be a career year for Kirk Cousins. I'm with that. I'll ride that train. But I'm very worried about the Packers. AJ Dillon,
Really?
the most receptions on your team receiving, that's a problem.
Does that surprise you?
What, that AJ Dillon led the team in receptions?
I expected that.
I think that's an issue. I don't think this big bulky back should be the leading receiver on your squad. I get it. Yeah, you dink and dunk every now and then, sure. But somebody has to step up. And yeah, Christian Watson, terrible drop to start the game. Obviously, that's not the foot that you want to get off with Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, this is the hole that you dug, man. You did this. You created this monster. You got all the money. All the money. Devontae Adams could have still been there, man.
And he's the reason they didn't take a receiver in the first round. I don't think it's just because Brian Gutekunst can't draft the wide receivers, but if they invest all of it into a receiver and he doesn't click with Rodgers, they're not going to use him. Look at Amari Rodgers at a Clemson, a third-round pick. Has anyone seen him on the field? It's like he's invisible. And the reason why is if you don't build that connection with Rodgers, you're as good as gone. So this team's not going to invest heavily in a receiver, and that's ultimately part of Rodgers' problem. I say to myself, though, Justin, I'm not worried about this Packers team because they're nowhere near full strength. They have all these guys coming back, and the defense should be better. Like you were saying before, going zone against this Vikings group when you have the perfect man corner to go one-on-one on Justin Jefferson makes no sense because we knew they were going to find ways to get Justin Jefferson the ball. Now, real quick on the Vikings, I want to say this. Kirk Cousins, he's better than Dak Prescott, Brandon, a quarterback you're very high on. And we were seeing yesterday with better protection with Brian O'Neill at right tackle and Christian Darrisaw at left tackle when he had the time in the pocket and a pass-first offense. He looked fantastic. He was getting the ball to Jettas, and with the healthy Adam Thielen, they didn't even have to use him that much. This Vikings offense is one of the best in the NFL, and we're going to see this year. Kirk Cousins, he may make a Pro Bowl, he may not. Ultimately, the Vikings have as good of a chance as it gets to winning this division. And I think, quite honestly, if, and this is a huge if, they stay healthy with Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, who lit A.J. Dillon on his backside like you wouldn't believe, and Harrison Smith, this Vikings team can win a couple of playoff games.
And I think a lot of things played in Vikings' favor. I think Kirk Cousins playing out of his mind usually against the Packers. Zadarius Smith, like you just said, I mean, he had an axe to grind with the Green Bay Packers, and he played out of his mind. One thing I do got to say, I don't even think if Rodgers took less money, Devontae would still be there. I think he wanted to get the hell out of Green Bay because I think he was tired of Aaron Rodgers' bullcrap and just the retire, not retire, and retire, not retire. It's just he didn't want to deal with that.
He didn't want to be stuck with love.
Yeah, and especially, love. And especially,
don't
the
laugh
connection.
At him.
No love, no love.
Don't
and
laugh
especially
at him.
The connection with Carr. So it was like a match made. It's just, yeah. I don't believe in these Minnesota Vikings. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins.
This is what Kirk does. Dude, you're disrespecting the team. Look, Mike Zimmer and the secondary was the problem. It was never Kirk Cousins. Now you have an energetic, young, innovative head coach that knows what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. Kirk was probably miserable working with Mike Zimmer in those years. Based off of everything we've seen, I would have hated to work with Zimmer. And now you add in the right guy for the job who can take this team to another level. They're like the Chargers in the NFC. People talk about it all the time. A team that's great on paper, but due to injuries, due to limitations, they always underachieve. But with Kirk Cousins, he's going to show people this year he is not elite, but he's a very good quarterback. One of the 12 best in the game. He's better than Dak. And you think Dak's good enough to bring the Cowboys to the playoffs. The Cowboys now, their year's over. So that playoff spot's going to somebody, whether it's New Orleans, Minnesota. And guess what? Honestly, I already had the Vikings a playoff team before his injury. So look, man, I think the Vikings this year can win 12 games. And the defense especially was very impressive when it's healthy with Eric Hendricks and Harrison Smith. You add in the two young rookies in the back end as well. That can be pretty good as well.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they won't be a playoff team. I'm just saying they're not going to do anything with it.
You just said I don't believe in Kirk Cousins, but I'm telling you,
I
man.
don't believe in Kirk Cousins. I've said before he's a numbers guy. He's going to put up great numbers. That box score is going to look beautiful with Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. But in primetime games, he will lose you the big one.
We really haven't seen it yet. I mean, he was playing Washington. Look at Washington post him. They haven't found the quarterback, and we're 6 years into this thing.
But that was because Washington traded their entire future for RG3, so they were stuck.
But they were a lot more competitive with Kirk. I mean, I'm sure now they'll love to have him.
Yeah, sure. All right. Listen, I just got to say, Kirk Cousins, I don't know. This is the guy that is the first ever fully guaranteed contract in NFL history. That's an indictment.
So,
real quick, can we react live? 64-yard field goal for the Broncos. Brandon McManus, 19 seconds, and
he missed it.
Yeah, that's why I left. I'm 10 seconds behind you on my stream.
No good.
And Russell Wilson loses to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are a weird team, and so I'm not surprised. Wait, did I have the Seahawks winning? Oh my God, I'm 6-10 in my picks this week because the Seahawks friggin' won. I thought about taking the Seahawks. I feel like
Justin did better than both of us in his predictions.
Yeah, you struggled as well. I did. I literally was six correct picks, 10 bad or wrong ones this week. I had a terrible day, and there are so many upsets. I'm not gonna get upset over it. But the fact that Russ is clapping and then he looks the other way and stops clapping when he realizes it's tilting left.
I mean, this is like I just said with this week one. This week one has been just absolutely insane and crazy. I mean, we haven't covered all the games, but the Saints only beating the Falcons by 1 point, the Bears beating the Niners, the Eagles and Lions going 38 and 35. The Jaguars almost beat the Commanders. You got the Colts and the Texans tying at 20 points each. The Giants beat the Titans. I mean, it's just been a very weird week in the NFL.
Listen, I'm going to shout out Geno Smith right now. I don't know if you saw any of the game, but I had my TV's on right here, so I got to see plenty of it. Geno Smith was absolutely dicing up the Denver Broncos defense.
Yep.
Wasn't no crazy big plays, just making the smart play. And 23 for 28, 195 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, just making the right play. And he's looking like he's back in West Virginia.
He did win his last week one start. I saw that. So, hey, listen, good on the Seahawks. You know, I mean, sucks for Wilson. I know he was looking to become the third or fourth quarterback to beat all 32 teams. Maybe he'll have another crack at it, but
it looks like he does. Yeah, it looks like he does have a connection with Jerry Jeudy. 4 for 102 and a touchdown. Him and Son 4 for 72. Javonte Williams 11 receptions. Geez, I feel bad for whoever went up against him in a full PPR league this week.
The Seahawks are the weirdest team in football, dude. I mean, this is like the typical Seahawks showing. Geno Smith freaking gets his first win as the full-time starter in the post-Russell Wilson era. And Justin, you and I were saying that would be the Drew Lock revenge game. They didn't need Lock to win. They got the best man for the job. And hey, maybe the Seahawks get the first and last win of the season against Russell Wilson himself.
Hey, John, introduce the dog to us. Who's the dog? What's the name?
Who's the dog?
This is Carmelo. He's totally aloof right now. It's raining and thundering outside. So while we were recording, while that field goal is going off, I was scratching at the door. And he's a little bit more secure now. But this is Carmelo. He's named after Carmelo Anthony, right, Melo? He's like, I don't really care what
Carmelo Anthony.
We haven't met the cat for Brandon's cat.
He's all right.
Keeping a PG.
All right, so nothing else to say about week one?
Nothing else to add, but you know what? One thing on the New York Giants, congratulations to them. They got a big one next week, and who knows? Maybe they can build on this. Dabo has some. I forgot what was the New York Post. I want to find it for you guys, but it was something like he's got Dabols, something like that. It was some wordplay on
2-point conversion.
Yeah, so man, you got to give it to him. I love the energy. Week one was awesome. I'm even more pumped up for week two.
Yep.
I want to say real quick, I had a pissed off player of the week performance because this week was full of upsets outside of Baker Mayfield and the Panthers, of course. So at quarterback, we have Patrick Mahomes just absolutely shredding up the Cardinals. But honorable mention to Carson Wentz, who after losing his job because he lost to the Jaguars last year, partially it wasn't the only reason why, he rips up the Jaguars over 300 yards and gets the W in his first game as a Commander. Running back, we have Saquon Barkley, 194 yards. That's one of his 3 best games of his career. He's only had 2 other performances with 155 plus yards. You want to believe this? Both of those games are against the Commanders on the road, both in December in his first and second years. So now Saquon has one of the best games of his career. On a side note, shout out to Geno Smith. He's taking this press conference, and I'm happy for the guy. But wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, 10 catches for 120 plus yards. That dude he might be a top 7 receiver in the league. We haven't seen him in a true pass-first offense. And the Eagles last year wanted to throw the football, but they really couldn't. They had to stick with the run game. Now you have a player in AJ who can just take over in so many different ways with the size, athleticism, and just pure power. And at defensive back, honorable mention, I got Minkah Fitzpatrick. So much crap talk over the last offseason, people talking down on his name after a disappointing year last year. 14 tackles, a game-saving blocked PAT, and a pick 6. He should win AFC Defensive Player of the Week. I want to shout out all those guys. And real quick for the Bears fans out there, I sneak up on them running victory laps in our comment section. They looked pretty good against the 49ers. That defense, they're going to win some ugly games this year. I really think we underrated that secondary with Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson, and then you add in those 2 young rookies and Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. I think we were disrespecting them a little bit, but Matt Eberflus, he gets his first win against Kyle Shanahan. I had him winning 2 games. I'll have him winning 5 now. And I do got to give a tip of the cap to Justin Fields. He looked pretty solid under pressure. And that being said, the Bears aren't going to win too many games this year. And ultimately, Justin Fields doesn't have much to work with outside Darnell Mooney. And they're playing a monsoon, but David Montgomery, number 1 running back, 17 carries, 26 yards. I mean, the Bears' offense is deplorable. Justin Fields had an impressive game, and maybe he takes that leap this year. But I want to say for the Bears fans out there, look, I had this team winning 2 games because you go and trade up for the best quarterback you're supposed to have in a long time. This guy's athletic traits are off the charts. The athleticism, the arm talent, and the vision as well. He was breaking so many tackles and just overall deceiving pass rushers with using his legs in that San Francisco game. That was insane, given the fact he was playing terrible field conditions. But you did nothing in the offseason to really help him out. You trade for N'Keal Harry, and then you take an offensive tackle in the 5th round, and that's it. So I say to myself, look, y'all, I mean, you're not setting this guy up to succeed. Whether or not you want to admit or you don't want to admit it, this team maybe can win 5 games this year, but that's not what matters. I mean, the only thing that is important this year for Chicago is finding that franchise quarterback. So while Matt Eberflus may have been the right coaching hire and the defense may be pretty good, that's going to get you nowhere if Justin Fields doesn't fully pan out. So, hey, look, shout out to the Bears for being a top 5 team in San Francisco. Trey Lance will be better. And I guess we're moving on to week 2. I'm excited.
Week two. I cannot wait. Final words from me. I will have the last laugh this season. All right. No more getting picked on by Brandon. We're coming for vengeance. All right. Last word. In the immortal words of one Aaron frickin' Rodgers. RELAX. Relax. I have been Brandon Capizzello. That was John Tortorelli. That was Justin Ray. We've been the Wise Guys. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, comment. We love the interaction. We love the hate. We love the love. We love everything. Who cares? It's sports. We love it. Don't forget to follow us on our socials. The Wise Guys podcast. John's going to have that in the description. Click the links. The Twitter handles will be on the screen. We love you guys. Thank you always. And Justin,
stay classy.